The narration opens on a kingdom ruled by magicians, where a long line of royal succession is finally reaching its bloody conclusion tonight. The second prince, a man who looks exactly like the villain he is, sits on his throne waiting for the good news. A glossy-eyed lackey bows, assuring his highness that the throne is practically his. But the celebration is premature. Suddenly, shouts erupt from outside. The prince, going full tyrant, orders his men to wipe out the detached palace and leave no witnesses, guards and servants included. One advisor tries to suggest this might be a bit extreme, but the prince just has him taken hostage and killed right in front of everyone to prove a point. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the tension, apologizing for interrupting the murder party. It's our boy, the protagonist, glowing with menacing red eyes. The second prince, who was acting tough a second ago, is now terrified and demands to know who dares intrude. A long-haired guard steps up, dismissing the intruder as a troublesome rat. He notices our boy's sword and that telltale aura, but as soon as he sees the red eyes, his attitude shifts to pure racism. He identifies our boy as a Galda, a member of the non-magical inferior race. The guard mocks him, preparing to draw his own sword, and arrogantly declares that sneak attacks won't work on him. But he doesn't even get to finish his sentence. Before the guard can blink, our boy knocks him out in a single, fluid move. The prince screams in confusion, unable to process how a beast with no magic could defeat a magic-infused guard. The guard is dead on the spot, his overconfidence costing him his life. Our boy calmly explains the mechanics of his move, the fatal stride. He basically shoved the guy's nasal bone upward at a specific angle, sending bone fragments directly into the brain. He coldly notes that whether you have magic or not, you're still biologically human, and that is a fatal flaw. The glassy-eyed mage from earlier tries to jump in, frantically chanting a spell to gather spirits of light. It is useless. Our boy closes the distance instantly, landing a kick before the mage can finish a single sentence. He dislocates the mage's jaw, pointing out that chanting is impossible if you can't speak. The mage, humiliated and angry, thinks he can cast without chanting and tries to attack again. Our boy just punches him straight into the floor, leaving him laid out on the stairs before the throne. Our boy warns the prince that he told him so. The narration notes that a high-ranking swordsman and a magician were taken out in an instant. The prince is having a mental breakdown, screaming that it's impossible to defeat magic users without magic. Our boy simply asks why he is so surprised, noting there is no rule saying magic is invincible. The prince pulls out a dagger, trembling, and asks if our boy is a hired assassin. Our boy sighs, clarifying that while he is an assassin, he wasn't hired. He is doing this as a favor for a friend. The prince is baffled that royalty would be friends with livestock, using a slur for the non-magical race. That strikes a nerve. Our boy remembers the suffering of his people, seeing the prince as the embodiment of that oppression. The prince, desperate and pathetic, falls to the ground and tries to bribe him, offering double or triple the pay. Our boy cuts him off, declaring that they are not livestock, and kills him on the spot. Later, the second prince's death is publicly announced as an illness, and the funeral is conducted with solemn decorum, effectively ending the palace intrigue. We then cut to the successor, a handsome man with blonde hair and blue eyes named Heinz. Our boy approaches him, and Heinz praises the good work regarding his brother, confident that he is definitely next in line for the king. Our boy congratulates him on achieving his long-held dream. Heinz looks at our boy and corrects him, saying this is where our dream begins. He swears that once he ascends the throne, he will eliminate the discriminatory policies against the Galda race so they won't be called livestock anymore. Our boy smiles, genuinely believing his friend will pull it off. Heinz asks if he will attend the coronation, but our boy points out that a Galder would be thrown out of such an event. Heinz insists he won't allow that because he's the king, but our boy laughs it off. He advises Heinz not to cause trouble immediately after taking the throne, knowing it takes time to change people's consciousness. He is willing to wait patiently. Heinz accepts this and suggests that our boy return home for a while to rest now that the fighting is over. Our boy agrees that spending time with his family sounds like a good idea. We see our boy washing up later, his body covered in scars. He is back in his humble quarters, looking at books and drawings on the wall. He reflects that because he has no magic, he can't be detected by magical means, which is a huge advantage for an assassin. He thinks back to his childhood with Heinz. Heinz had worried that their enemies would be great magicians and masters, asking how our boy could possibly win against them. Teenager Heinz had even offered to learn magic for both of them. But our boy had declared he would learn about magic better than anyone else and polish his martial arts to overcome it. Back in the present, he packs his books, realizing it truly was a long battle. The scene shifts to a bustling village market. A vendor is shouting about fresh southern fruits. Our boy decides to buy a souvenir for his family, thinking his sister would cry with joy over such a rare treat. He approaches the stall and asks for one fruit. The owner is all smiles until our boy looks down and reveals his red eyes. The owner immediately points to a sign prohibiting sales to Galda and rudely tells him to get lost. Our boy doesn't back down. He slams 2 copper coins on the counter, asking if he will sell or not. The crowd notices the commotion and starts whispering with blatant hostility. calling him a curse and warning each other not to get close or they will lose their magic. Our boy ignores the ignorance, internally reciting the harsh reality of his world. The Galda are the only race with absolutely no magic, and ancient kings decided to classify them as livestock to create a social hierarchy. They are used for hard labor, used as fodder in wars, and heavily taxed. Whenever social unrest rises, the kingdom massacres the non-magical race as a convenient scapegoat. It makes him sick, but he holds on to the hope that Heinz will change things. Suddenly, a little girl bumps into him and drops her fruit. Our boy pauses, asking if she is okay. The girl looks up at his red eyes, not with fear, but with admiration, telling him they look really cool. Our boy is shocked, as nobody ever compliments them, but the kid just smiles and thanks him before running off. He watches her go, reaffirming his belief that they are all humans and that the two races will join hands someday. Evening falls, and our boy realizes he is really late. It has been 10 years since he left. He wonders if his family will be happy to see him. He imagines the scene inside his house, his mother cooking by the fire, telling him to bring a wife home next time, and his little sister Elena teasing him about introducing a girlfriend. He remembers his mother telling him to give it his all, but to always come back if it gets too tough. He clutches a red talisman, excited to finally be home. But as he crosses the hill and looks down at his village, his expression shudders. The entire village is engulfed in flames. Our boy sprints through the inferno, shouting for anyone to answer. The village is a graveyard. He finds a neighbor lying on the ground with a hole in his stomach, but before he can even check for a pulse, he sees it. Hanging from a tree by her arms is his mother. He kneels in front of her, muttering that this has to be a lie, but she is already gone. He turns around and spots his little sister, Elena. She is alive, but barely. She is covered in blood and begs him to run, revealing that the remnants of the second prince's faction are here specifically for him. Our boy is in shock, unable to believe they would hunt him this far. He scoops her up, telling her to save her strength, but she interrupts him with a heartbreaking delirium. She starts talking about the stew she left cooking, worried it might burn. She smiles weakly and says she just wanted her big brother to try it. He begs her not to talk, but she looks up at him and whispers not to blame himself. She insists it isn't his fault, and just like that, the light leaves her eyes. She passes away in his arms. Our boy screams her name, but he doesn't even get a moment to grieve. A royal guard steps out of the smoke and stabs him mercilessly in the back. The guard shouts to his squad that they have defeated the rebel leader, but he's confused why our boy didn't even try to dodge. Our boy simply stares at the ground and admits he has nothing left to protect anyway. The guard raises his sword to give him an easy death, but our boy stops him with one question. He asks who ordered this. The guard sneers that it was His Highness, who decided the non-magical race is unnecessary. Our boy calls him a liar, refusing to believe his friend would do this. But then, the blonde traitor himself walks out of the smoke. Heinz looks down at our boy and complains that he is quite late. He assumes our boy was busy buying souvenirs since it had been a while since he went home. Our boy asks why. Heinz coldly explains that it is all his fault. An assassin who can't be detected by magic, yet kills magicians with physical strength alone, is a threat to the kingdom's peace. Therefore, they must be destroyed. Our boy gently places his sister's body on the ground, realizing he has been deceived all along. Heinz smirks, noting that he is keeping his promise to end discrimination by simply deleting the race being discriminated against. That snaps something inside our boy. He lunges, unleashing his secret technique, Galda's shadow style Absolute Blossom. But Heinz is not worried. The king casts a massive ultimate spell called Lucid Sagittarius. A blinding arrow of light obliterates the area. When the dust settles, our boy is missing half his body, yet he is still standing, shielding his sister's corpse. Heinz shakes his head, noting that fighting for a corpse is just like him. He calls our boy a fool for refusing to kneel to the magical race even in death, says goodbye, and walks away. Darkness takes over. Our boy lies in a void until a massive beast approaches. The entity complains that its revenge isn't fulfilled yet and offers him one chance to do it better. Suddenly, our boy gasps awake. He is alive. He looks around the familiar room confused. Elena walks in, asking why he is shouting and if he is still half asleep. She tells him to go wash his face because mom made fish to celebrate his birthday. Our boy freezes. He asks what she means. She laughs and tells him to get it together, reminding him that he is 15 years old. Our boy rushes to the mirror and stares at his younger face. He realizes he has been sent back exactly 10 years in the past. Our boy is currently in a very confusing situation, watching his mother and sister set up a picnic like he didn't just die 5 minutes ago. His mom is busy packing the essentials for a nice day out, while his sister comments on the beautiful weather. Our boy, however, is staring at the scenery like he is trying to decipher the Matrix code. A sudden gust of wind blows through, and he catches a single flower petal in his hand. For a second, he thinks this might be the afterlife, but the sensation is too real. The wind, the texture of the petal, and the muscle memory of his martial arts training are all still there. He realizes he has retained the 4 great techniques he spent a lifetime mastering. The smell of his burning village and the phantom pain of a laser beam through his chest try to drag him back to the trauma, but his sister interrupts the flashback. She asks if something happened because he looks like he has seen a ghost. Our boy looks at Elena, alive and well, and forces a smile, insisting it is nothing. His mom, oblivious to her son's internal crisis, proudly announces that the soup is ready. She tells him to eat plenty since it is his birthday. Our boy takes a sip and remarks that it tastes nostalgic. His mom is confused, reminding him that she just made this for him the other day. He has really returned to the world of 10 years ago. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the kingdom, we cut to a mysterious lady with green eyes and black hair riding a horse, flanked by 2 guards. She seems to be on a mission to mobilize students, but the guards apologize for not finding a higher-ranked magician to escort her. The lady is worried about potential civilian casualties, but the guard dismisses her concerns with casual racism. He points out that they are entering the Galda Autonomous District, and since Galda are viewed as livestock rather than people, he argues there is no need to worry about collateral damage. The lady looks suspicious of this attitude, but decides they need to hurry regardless. Back at the picnic, our boy is having a career counseling session inside his own head. He remembers that at age 15, with no father and no money, he had 3 terrible options. He could become a low-wage laborer, leave town to starve, or become a mercenary. Since these people have no magic but possess physically superior bodies that are hard to detect, they make excellent scouts and cannon fodder for the army. High risk, high pay. He hugs his mom, who seems to read his mind. She tells him sternly that she won't let him become a mercenary. She explains that they can eat today thanks to his father's sacrifice on the battlefield, but she refuses to lose her only son to the same fate. Our boy listens, knowing that in his previous life, he ignored this advice, became a mercenary to survive, and eventually met the traitor who ruined everything. Suddenly, the sound of the town bell shatters the moment. Our boy freezes, realizing he had forgotten about this specific disaster. He tells his confused mother and sister to stay put and not go near the town, then he immediately springs toward the danger. In the town square, the situation has gone from peaceful to fanatical very quickly. A group of creepy men are holding hostages. The leader is preaching about how impurity is a sin and how they must protect the pure bloodline. He declares that the kingdom harbors the detestable Galda, calling them impurities born from darkness. Our boy recognizes them immediately as the Purification Sect, a fundamentalist group so radical that even the main church thinks they are crazy. He recalls that on his 15th birthday, this group, who had been branded heretics, fled the capital and escaped into the Galda district. Since the district had 0 security, the sect easily conquered the town and committed atrocities in the name of cleansing. In the past, our boy could only hide and watch. But this time is different. The cult leader prepares to burn a woman alive, shouting about purifying flames cleaning the sin. But before he can finish his monologue, our boy drops from the roof like a tactical nuke. He knows the basic tactic for fighting magicians is a surprise attack from outside their perception range. He lands behind the leader and goes straight for the kill. He knows that if he destroys the brain or spinal cord, the mage dies before they can cast a single spell. He chokes the leader and snaps his neck in one fluid motion. The rest of the sect members stand there in total shock, unable to process that a random kid just speed-ran their boss's demise. Another sect member decides he wants to be the main character and charges in, his sword glowing with magical energy as he curses our boy. But our boy isn't improvising. He is accessing a 10-year-old database of anti-mage combat tactics. He knows that non-magical attacks bounce right off magical defenses, so if he wants to kill a mage, he needs a magic weapon. Since he doesn't have one, he decides to simply use the one currently trying to kill him. With terrifying precision, he redirects the cultist's momentum, twisting the man's arm and forcing him to drive his own magic sword straight into his own body. Another fanatic steps up, channeling a stunning purple lightning spell known as Electrum Lightning. Our boy spots the casting animation instantly. He launches a swift counterattack, closing the distance and silencing the threat before the man can even finish his spell. Our boy does a quick head count and calculates that there are 3 enemies remaining. But his victory lap is cut short by a shout. One of the sect members has grabbed a woman and is holding a knife to her throat. He screams at our boy to kneel, calling him a demon brat and threatening to kill the hostage if he doesn't obey. Our boy curses internally. He realizes he made a rookie mistake and failed to account for the enemies hiding outside the plaza. He knows that if he fights now, the woman dies, so he switches to psychological warfare. He shouts that this is fine and drops to his knees in surrender. The cultists grin, delighted that their cowardly tactic worked. One of them mocks him, saying he should have done that from the start, and then they proceed to stomp on him. Our boy stays on the ground, curling up while the group starts playing soccer with his ribs. One of the fanatics, clearly upset about his dead comrades, suggests they take their time and make him suffer plenty. But the guy holding the hostage is smarter. He says the kid gives him a bad feeling and they need to kill him immediately. The smart goon pushes the hostage away, deciding to do the job himself. He raises his weapon, saying fine, he will do it. But before he can strike, a cool voice incants a spell. Freeze bite. Instantly, the sect members are encased in ice, frozen mid-action like terrible modern art. The green-eyed lady from earlier rides into the plaza. She looks at the frozen statues and coldly warns them not to move carelessly. If they shatter while frozen, she doesn't know how to fix them. She declares the commotion over and announces that, in the name of the kingdom's justice, they are all under arrest. One of the frozen fanatics stammers that these are pursuers from the royal capital. Our boy watches from the ground, completely confused. In his previous life, reinforcements from the capital took way longer to arrive. The fanatic screams at his unfrozen comrades to kill the woman, but it is no use. They are all statues now. The lady sighs, asking what they are waiting for, and orders her guards to hurry up and confiscate their weapons. The guards rush in to clean up the mess. The lady turns her attention to our boy. She admits that she should be thanking him. She points to the corpse of the sect leader our boy killed earlier, explaining that he was a flame magus. If he had been left alive, he could have turned the entire town to ash. She honestly wasn't sure how she was going to deal with him without causing massive collateral damage, so our boy taking him out with a surprise attack was a huge help. Our boy realizes that his actions changed history. Because he defeated the leader early, the kingdom acted faster. The lady smiles and asks if there is anything he wants as a reward. Our boy plays the humble hero card, saying he doesn't need anything and thanking her for the help. She reaches out a hand and notes that there are interesting kids even among the Galda. She asks for his name. Our boy introduces himself as Van. She introduces herself as Helen. Then she drops a bombshell. She asks him why he doesn't come to the Magic Academy. Our boy is flabbergasted. He asks if she means the magic school, totally confused, because as far as he knows, he has absolutely zero magic power. Our boy is trying to process the job offer, but Helen keeps talking. She explains that the Magic Academy is a boarding school established by the free nations to recruit talent. It doesn't matter if you're a commoner or foreigner, or, as she politely implies, a walking human weapon. Anyone can enroll as long as they pass the entrance exam. Our boy listens, but he doesn't need the brochure. He knows exactly what this place is. In his previous life, he heard the name constantly. It is the factory where the world's heroes and high-ranking magicians are manufactured. Suddenly, Helen decides they need privacy. She grabs our boy by the hand, which confuses him because he is currently covered in the dust of her enemies. She asks him to guide her to a quiet place since she is new to the village. Our boy sighs and leads her to a secluded spot away from the prying eyes of the traumatized townsfolk. He tells her that nobody will overhear them here. Helen looks around, smiles, and cheerfully notes that no one would even notice if someone died here. Before our boy can appreciate the dark humor, she snaps her fingers. Sajeta Lazaro. She fires a magical arrow point blank at his face. But our boy doesn't even blink. He doesn't use magic because he can't, and he doesn't panic because he has done this 1,000 times. He uses pure, terrifying physical speed to step into her blind spot, vanishing from her line of sight instantly. Helen is stunned. She initially thinks he used instant movement magic, but she feels zero mana usage. He simply broke her line of sight with raw athleticism. Before she can turn around, our boy is already behind her, ready to strike. He tells her to stop the charade. Helen smiles, clearly enjoying this way too much. She notes that he speaks and moves, like a seasoned warrior, not a 15-year-old kid. She asks what kind of experience he has had. Our boy realizes she was just testing him. Helen admits she has a personality flaw where she likes to confirm important things with violence. She points out the absurdity of a boy with no magic finding a magician through physical technique alone. Our boy asks, so what if he does? Helen drops the bombshell. She thinks he might be able to change the miserable situation of the Galda race. If he comes to the academy, there is a specific path he can take. Our boy connects the dots immediately. She is talking about student knighthood. She is impressed that he knows about it. The student knighthood is a system that rewards students who achieve notable results while attending the academy. Recipients, regardless of their original status, gain the right to establish a new noble house, and traditionally, the territory granted to a new knight is land connected to their origins. If he succeeds, he will almost certainly be granted the Galda district as his own territory. Our boy is shocked. He realizes that this option wasn't entirely absent from his mind, but in his previous life, he was too old and too bitter to try it. Now, he hasn't passed the age limit yet, but he is a pragmatist, so he holds up 3 fingers. He has 3 questions. First, the exams require a recommendation from a kingdom noble. Helen waves this off, saying she has already arranged it because she loves a good project. Second, our boy asks the obvious question: can someone without magic actually receive knighthood at a magic school? It sounds ridiculous. Helen agrees it is odd, but she explains the loophole. Past knights were students who transcended tradition and reached a new principle of magic, like developing new medicines or magic circles. She argues that subduing magicians without using magic is a valid new principle. If he can make the world acknowledge his strength, there is no reason he can't be a knight. Our boy admits he doesn't quite understand the politics, but he agrees it isn't impossible. It all depends on him. Then he asks the final, most dangerous question. What is her goal? He knows nobles don't hand out fate-changing favors for free. He stares her down and asks what exactly she is planning to make him do. Helen notices our boy is skeptical of her generous offer. She asks if he trusts her. Our boy, being a pragmatist with a PhD in betrayal, says that if he becomes a lord, he needs to know exactly what she gets out of it. Helen basically hits him with a "that's for me to know and you to find out," admitting there is a benefit but refusing to spoil the plot. The tense negotiation is interrupted by Elena, who comes charging in like a heat-seeking missile of worry. She demands to know what he is doing here. Our boy tries the classic "it's nothing" defense, but Elena isn't buying it. Her eyeballs are practically sweating tears as she scolds him for always saying he is fine right before doing something incredibly reckless. She asks if he has any idea how worried she and Mom were. Helen stands up and interrupts the family drama with some cold, hard facts. She tells our boy he doesn't need to trust her personally, but she points out that if he achieves knighthood, he gains the legal power to protect his sister and his family. That part isn't a scam. She swears on her name, Helen St. North. The next few days pass in a blur. When his mom first heard he fought the cult, she looked like she aged 5 years in 5 seconds. But after the whole town wouldn't stop thanking him, she softened up. She pats him on the head, sighing that he really is his father's son. Then our boy drops the nuclear bomb. He announces he is going to the Magic Academy in the royal capital. His mom and sister look at him like he just announced he is going to the moon. Elena points out the obvious flaw in this plan, noting that he will be surrounded by magicians who hate them. Our boy puts on a brave face, claiming Galdas won't lose to anyone. Internally, however, he knows he is taking a massive gamble. He spent days thinking this through. In his last life, his path as an assassin only worked because he teamed up with the second prince, the blonde traitor. In this life, he would rather eat glass than team up with that guy again. He doesn't know Helen's true intentions, but he needs a new path to fight the kingdom. Since he has already died once, a little treachery seems manageable. He tells his family his true goal. He wants to eliminate discrimination against Galdas from this country. Hearing this, his mom sees her late husband overlapping with her son. She realizes that even if she tried to stop him, he wouldn't listen. She wipes away a tear, smiles, and gives him her permission. Then she asks a very practical question. Does he actually have the money for exam fees and tuition? Because school isn't free. Our boy freezes. In all his tactical planning, he completely forgot about capitalism. He panics and his mom sighs, saying she will figure something out. Elena jumps in, offering to work to support him. Our boy starts trembling. He absolutely refuses to let his family suffer for his ambition. He wonders if he should get a job, but wages in the Galda district are terrible. Fortunately, the plot provides a bailout. The money problem is solved instantly by Helen, who tosses him a heavy bag of gold coins. Our boy is confused, but she explains it is the bounty money for the purification sect leader he killed. It pays to be an assassin. Finally, it is time to leave. His mom pulls him aside for one last lecture. She warns him that in the city, people will treat him like dirt just because he is a Galda. She tells him he will have to endure it, but he must never feel inferior. He must live with dignity because he is her pride and joy. Our boy promises to do his best. Elena approaches him, trying to be brave. She promises that when he comes back, she will make that mushroom soup he loves so much. Our boy smiles, pats her on the head, and says he is looking forward to it. With that, he says he is off and walks away. As he heads toward the capital, he swears that this time, he will definitely keep his promise to protect them. He arrives at the royal capital and stands before the Magic Academy. It is huge, majestic, and absolutely terrifying. Inside the academy grounds, the parade of nepotism is in full swing. We see students arriving and dropping names like their currency. One student, Alexis von Homburg, flashes a recommendation from his father, a lord, and the guard bows so low his nose almost touches the pavement. Next up is Elizabeth, backed by the Marquis Klausenberg, and she gets the same red carpet treatment. Then it is our boy's turn. The guard takes one look at those glowing red eyes, and his customer service smile instantly curdles into disgust. He demands to know what a filthy Galda is doing here. Our boy sighs internally, thinking, here we go again. He calmly explains that he is not doing anything suspicious. He is just an exam candidate. The guard clenches his teeth, offended by the very concept. He asks if our boy knows where he is. Our boy retorts that it is the royal school, and he is pretty sure the brochure said anyone could take the exam regardless of status. The guard sneers, finding the idea of a Galda acting above his station laughable. He points his spear at our boy. Our boy analyzes the situation. Pressing them by force wouldn't be difficult, but causing a scene before the exam even starts is a tactical error. Another guard approaches, but instead of helping, he just complains about the deluded types that show up every year. The lead guard lectures our boy, saying that while the academy doesn't technically discriminate, the exam requires a recommendation from a kingdom noble. Our boy simply says he has one. He produces the letter, complete with a wax seal. The lead guard looks at the seal and goes into shock, but his partner is in denial. He accuses our boy of forgery, shouting that no noble would recommend a Gilda. He decides to confiscate the fake document and grabs our boy. Our boy decides he is tired of this conversation. He doesn't punch the guard. He just applies a subtle redirection of force. Suddenly, without any apparent cause, the guard is face-planting into the dirt. The lead guard and the other students stare in confusion. The guard on the ground has no idea how he got there. Before the violence can escalate, an examiner arrives to investigate the commotion. The guards immediately bow. The examiner asks who the candidate is. Our boy introduces himself as a candidate recommended by Helen St. North. The name drops like a heavy stone. The examiner inspects the wax seal and confirms it is genuine. His attitude does a complete 180. He apologizes profusely for the guard's rudeness and invites our boy inside. The other students whisper among themselves, wondering who this kid is to have the backing of the St. North family. Our boy realizes Helen really is a big deal. Inside the hall, our boy surveys the competition. He sees a small man with green hair named David, the child of flames. He sees a girl named Linaris, a user of divine power. Our boy recognizes them instantly. In his previous life, these were academy graduates who became kingdom heroes. They made names for themselves on the battlefield, but in the struggle for royal succession, they became nothing but corrupt lackeys for the princes. And in the end, our boy killed them all. He realizes that in this life, he has to compete with these guys in the spotlight. It won't be easy, but if he can pull it off, he might be able to change the kingdom. Naturally, the moment is ruined by the arrival of a generic bully. A noble student points at our boy and demands to know how he dares to stand there so calmly with those red eyes. Our boy dryly replies that it is his freedom to stand wherever he wants. The noble gets offended, ranting about how he bears the kingdom's future while our boy is just livestock. Our boy considers his options. In his previous life, he dealt with this constantly. It would be easier to just bow his head and de-escalate. But then he remembers his mother's words, live with dignity. If he bows his head to contemptuous looks now, the day of equality will never come. The noble kid loses his temper, shouting and grabbing our boy by the collar. Our boy looks him in the eye and notes that the noble struck first. He grins. He grabs the kid by the arms and forces him to his knees. The kid is baffled. Our boy explains the mechanics of the harmony technique while he holds him down. Rather than fighting against an opponent's force, he harmonizes his own power to manipulate their movement. It is the same move he used on the guard earlier. He cheerfully offers to help the kid feel dizzy. The bully scrambles up, humiliated and furious. He prepares a magic spell, shouting, "You bastard." But a voice cuts through the tension, ordering them to stop. Prince Heinz has entered the chat. The blonde traitor walks in, radiating fake benevolence. He declares that the Galda people are also companions of the kingdom and that they should strive together, not antagonize each other. The bully immediately bows, terrified of the royalty. Heinz brushes off the formality, claiming that today he is just another exam candidate like everyone else. He asks to be treated normally. Then he points to our boy and smiles. Our boy stares back, his internal alarm bells ringing at maximum volume. He realizes with a sinking feeling that the prince was also an academy graduate. The villain has arrived. The crowd immediately starts gossiping. Students whisper that Heinz is magnanimous for showing tolerance even to a Galda, and praise him as expected of the Royal Highness. Our boy listens and realizes that in his previous life, he heard the same garbage. Heinz used to brag about attending the academy, painting himself as a humble student. Heinz smiles at our boy, admitting that he is nervous too, since the entrance exam is famously difficult. He suggests they give it their all as fellow candidates and extends his hand for a handshake. Our boy stares at that hand. He knows exactly what it represents. It is a handshake that makes anyone feel comfortable, designed to make people naturally open their hearts. It is the perfect politician's weapon. But our boy knows the rotten nature behind that smile. He knows the real Heinz. Right now, our boy could kill him. He could snap the prince's neck right here in the courtyard. But he stops himself. Killing the prince now would unleash chaos and ruin his own plans to infiltrate the academy. He reminds himself not to lose sight of why he came back. So our boy does something very strange. He ignores the handshake completely. He turns around and coldly tells the prince not to concern himself with him, stating he has no intention of getting friendly. Then he simply walks away, leaving the prince standing there with his hand hanging in the air like an idiot. The crowd gasps. The other candidates are horrified. They mutter about his attitude, calling him rude and declaring that a Galda is no different from a beast for disrespecting royalty. The noble bullies from earlier look ready to start a riot. Suddenly, a voice shouts for silence. The lead examiner announces that registration is closed and guides everyone to the exam venue, the Shadow Forest. The students gather at the edge of a dark, ominous forest. The examiner explains that the academy nurtures the elite who will lead the kingdom, so they don't have the luxury of teaching beginners. This exam is to filter out the weak. The Shadow Forest is a land of strong magical power. Their task is simple: find and bring back a magic-infused flower called Tears of Heaven before sunset. There is a catch, obviously. The forest is full of magical beasts. The examiner adds that interference between candidates is forbidden, but cooperation is allowed. However, groups need enough flowers for every member to pass, so forming large teams is risky. He hands out guardian badges, emergency panic buttons. If a student is in danger, they can crush the badge for immediate rescue, but doing so results in instant disqualification. With that, the exam begins. Students rush into the forest. Some immediately start pairing up, with guys trying to flirt with girls by offering protection. Our boy watches the chaotic dating sim unfold and decides that being alone is easier. He adds into the tree solo. As he enters, the noble bully from earlier watches him with a smug, smoking look, clearly plotting something. Almost immediately, a huge magical beast appears in front of our boy. It is a beast demon, an animal enhanced by magic. These things are often more troublesome than human magicians because they are physically superior. But our boy isn't impressed. He became an assassin after fighting these things as a mercenary for years. He uses a technique called crushing strike. Rather than a sharp impact, it is a strike that emphasizes impulse, generating a force wave that penetrates surface defenses and destroys internal organs. It is perfect for mindless beasts. With a single strike, the beast drops dead. Our boy thinks, "Too bad for you," but he isn't talking to the dead monster. He turns his head slightly and addresses the two students spying on him from behind a tree. The two spies are the noble bully's lackeys. They are shocked that the Galthe killed the bees so easily, assuming he must have used poison or a dirty trick. One of them arrogantly claims that such tricks won't work on his wind magic. The other hesitates, reminding his friend that interference is forbidden. But the first guy dismisses it, saying the examiner won't care if a rude Galda disappears. Even if they kill him, no one will blame them. Meanwhile, in a dark corridor of the academy, the plot thickens. We see the second examiner, the one who hates our boy, walking with a nervous guard. The examiner demands the key to a special cage. The guard is terrified, asking if he is serious. The examiner assures him there is no need to fear because the creature inside is under control magic. He unlocks the cage to reveal a massive, terrifying cursed beast. His plan is simple: target only the filthy Galda who dares to crawl into the glorious academy. He explains that while they couldn't turn away a candidate with a recommendation, if the candidate meets with an unfortunate accident during the exam, well, that's just tragic fate. The guard worries about other students getting caught in the crossfire, but the examiner dismisses it. He reasons that since the Galda is a loner, no other student will be near him. With a cruel smile, he unleashes the beast. Go, cursed beast. Eliminate the filth and protect the Academy's pride. He has no idea that 2 other students are currently stalking our boy, about to walk straight into a massacre. Back in the observation room, the vibe is getting tense. The examiner with the pink hair has a bad feeling about this year's exam. He turns to the corrupt examiner who just walked back in and asks where he went. The corrupt examiner smiles innocently, claiming everything is going smoothly and he was just preparing for the next phase. But the pink-haired examiner narrows his eyes. He knows a liar when he sees one. Deep in the forest, our boy finds his objective. He spots a flower that matches the description perfectly. It is the tears of heaven. He realizes that if he picks this and returns, he passes the exam. But before he can secure the bag, he speaks up, addressing the empty air behind him. He says it is about time they came out. The noble bully and his lackey step out from the shadows. The noble sneers, saying he guessed Galdas really do have noses like dogs. Our boy turns around and smirks. He corrects them, saying it is just experience, because cowards always come from behind. Internally, he admits he shouldn't talk, since he used to be an assassin who exclusively attacked from behind, but he decides not to mention that part. The lackey warns him that he won't be acting so cool in a second. The noble bully drops the act and gets straight to the point. He says our boy isn't fit for the academy, and they are going to prove it. Our boy sighs and cuts through the excuses. He points out that the noble is just mad about being embarrassed in front of everyone earlier. He calls it petty pride. The noble snaps, declaring he will beat that attitude out of him. Our boy analyzes the threat level. He sees a pair of sorcery styles. One is a sorcerer blade user, and the other is a spellcaster mage. He quickly reviews his internal textbook. Combat styles using magic are broadly divided into 3 types. First, spellcaster mages who project magic as spells. Second, sorcerer blades who channel magic into weapons. And third, martial artists who contain magic within their bodies for physical enhancement. Forming a team with different styles is considered a good strategy since they cover each other's weaknesses. Our boy admits the kid acted smart. He notes that while they don't look like they have any killing experience, they at least have the guts to try. However, our boy faces a political problem. He can't kill these guys. If a Galda dies in the forest, it gets dismissed as an unfortunate exam accident. But if a noble's child dies, their house will mobilize everything to find the culprit. The nobles of this country are warlords who expanded their territory through blood. They still have that chaotic temperament. Since our boy has decided to walk in the light in this life, he chooses a different path. He won't kill them. He will simply break their spirits until they wish they were dead. The noble bully glares at him, saying he really hates those confident eyes. He shouts the name of his technique, Gale Blade, Bending Sky. He launches an attack. Our boy spots the invisible threat instantly. He dodges a fatal wind slash with a minimal movement. The wind slices the air where his neck just was. The noble gloats, confirming that this is the secret art of House Waltrex. It creates an invisible blade of wind, perfect for killing someone who can't see magic. He asks if our boy is scared now and suggests that if he kneels and begs, he might forget about the earlier insult. Our boy looks unimpressed. He remarks that it is a pretty handy magic for summer. He asks if House Waltrex's job is delivering gentle breezes to the royal court. The noble turns purple with rage. He screams that he will kill him and fires the same spell again. Our boy dodges it effortlessly. The noble is shocked. He realizes the movements aren't a coincidence. The Galda can see it. Our boy thinks to himself that of course he can see it. He notes that the kid's bloodlust is so thick it is practically leaking out of him, making the invisible attack as obvious as a neon sign. The noble kid tries to spam the same move again, launching another wind blade. But our boy has already downloaded this fight pattern. He dodges effortlessly, closes the distance, and introduces his fist to the noble's stomach. The kid folds like a lawn chair and hits the ground. The sword-wielding lackey screams, calling our boy a bastard, and charges in. Our boy analyzes the glowing weapon instantly. It is a simple enchantment type. The blade is dangerous, but if you don't touch the sharp part, it is just an expensive metal stick. Technically, the tip speed of a sword is 2 to 3 times faster than a punch. Physics is usually strict about that, but our boy treats physics as a mere suggestion. He uses lightning-fast footwork to bypass the danger zone, controlling the lackey's wrist instead of the blade. With a simple twist, he redirects the force, and the second kid joins his friend in the dirt. Our boy turns back to the wind user, deciding to put the fear of God into him. He says he wants to go beyond this and can't hold back anymore. The kid, realizing he is outmatched, instantly loses his nerve. He starts stammering apologies, begging for mercy, but our boy interrupts him. He says, "Wait a second. Something feels off." He tells the two of them to get away from here immediately. Suddenly, a massive shape crushes through the trees. A huge beast charges at them. Our boy identifies it immediately. It is a hellboar, a demon fang beast. It is basically a tank made of muscle and bad attitude. The two noble kids stare in horror. One of them stammers that it is impossible. Why is such a high-ranking magical beast in a beginner exam? Our boy calculates the threat. The beast is known as the Cursed Fang. Its charge, enhanced by immense magical power, hits with the force of siege magic. Our boy stands in front of the beast and yells at the kids to run if they can move. The wind user shakes his head. He points to his leg. From the earlier fall, his ankle is fractured. Standing is all he can manage. Our boy runs the numbers. Carrying them and running is suicide. Losing speed means death against a beast that hunts marked prey relentlessly. He tells them to break their guardian badges and call for help. He offers to buy time until the examiners arrive. But the noble kids refuse. The wind user says if they fail the exam like this, it will disgrace their house. He claims he would rather die fighting than stain the family name. The other kid agrees, calling running away and abandoning comrades a disgrace. Our boy listens to this suicidal logic and gets frustrated. He puts his hand on his head, groaning at their stupidity. He calls it cheap pride. The Waltruck's kid gets offended, asking what he just said. Our boy stares him down. He asks if their pride is just about dying uselessly. He tells them that if they are going to fight, they should fight to win. Isn't that the true pride of the kingdom nobles? The noble kid looks at this cocky Galda and realizes he is right. He grit his teeth and stands up. Together, our boy and the two injured nobles turn to face the charging beast. The scene shifts back to the safety of the observation area, where the corrupt examiner is standing around looking suspiciously pleased with himself. He is staring at the sky and smiling like a man who just got away with murder. The other examiner, the one with purple hair, asks him what he is grinning about. The corrupt examiner waves it off, claiming he is just thinking aloud. He casually asks if anyone has used their guardian badge to call for help yet. The purple-haired examiner checks the logs and shakes his head. It has been quiet so far. The corrupt examiner grins even wider. He thinks that is excellent news. It looks like the kid didn't even have time to scream. He reveals his master plan in his internal monologue. Before the exam started, he confiscated the candidate's luggage. He took our boy's belongings and had the demon fang beast memorize the scent. By now, the beast should have finished the job. All that is left is to wait for the tragic news report. Back in the forest, things are less chill. The hellboar is furious and charging like a runaway freight train. Our boy takes command, shouting that he will stop the beast while the other two hit it with their strongest attacks. The noble kid, still clinging to his pride, snaps back, asking who gave Agalda the right to give orders. But despite the attitude, he gets ready. Our boy jumps in to intercept the charge. He uses a technique called counter-strike. His internal narration explains the physics. It is a strike that anticipates the enemy's attack and hits the exact point where the motion originates. For a quadruped, the movement starts at the head. He lands the hit perfectly. However, physics decides to be cruel. The attack doesn't go through. Our boy realizes with horror that he lost his adult muscle mass when he regressed 10 years. His current 15-year-old body lacks the weight to knock out a monster of this class. The boar shrugs off the hit and pushes forward. The two noble kids unleash their magic, but it bounces off the beast's hide like pebbles. Our boy shouts for everyone to get down. The group gets shoved back, tumbling across the dirt. They pick themselves up, battered and bruised. One of the kids groans that he managed to deflect a fatal hit with his wind magic, but he won't be lucky next time. The sword user is despairing, noting that his blade didn't work at all. He asks if this is the ant. Our boy stands up, dusting himself off. He says, "All right, one more time." The nobles look at him like he is insane. They scream that they can't pierce its magic defense. Our boy starts handing out coaching advice like a tactical genius. He turns to the wind user. He tells him that next time, he needs to mix rocks into his wind spell. It won't be an invisible blade anymore, but the added mass will give it actual killing power. Then he turns to the sword user. He explains that if slashing doesn't work, he needs to try thrusting. He tells him to lay the blade flat, aim for the gaps between the ribs, and concentrate all his magic into a single point on the tip. The noble kid stares at him, bewildered. He asks what our boy is thinking. He points out that our boy's injuries are light, so he should use the nobles as bait and escape. He admits that there is no chance of winning, so our boy should run. He tells him not to hold back, reminding him that he tried to kill our boy earlier. Our boy dismisses this dramatic sacrifice. He says he isn't interested in petty revenge. His goal is for his family and the Gata race to be recognized as part of the kingdom. He asks how he can claim equal rights if he runs away and abandons comrades from the same country. The noble kid is floored. He thinks back to his own arrogant behavior and realizes how small he looks compared to the guy he was trying to bully. He is shocked that the filthy Gata is risking his life to save the very people who tormented him. They grit their teeth and stand up. Our boy shouts that the beast is coming and orders them to fire. Together, the unluckiest team in the forest prepares to kill the pig. The noble kid listens to the coaching and evolves his strategy instantly. He mixes debris into his wind magic and shouts the name of his upgraded move, Black Dust Rending Sky. A black blade infused with sand and gravel blinds the demon Fong beast. Our boy thinks nice as the dust blocks the beast's vision. Now it is his turn. He recalls that the shoulder blades of quadrupeds differ from humans. They aren't directly connected to the spine. This creates a flexible range of motion for running, but it makes them terribly unstable against unexpected lateral force. He engages the harmony technique, rotation. He exploits that structural weakness, twisting the beast's momentum and slamming the massive boar into the ground. He shouts to the sword user to trust. The heart is exposed at the base of the front leg. The sword kid rushes in, adrenaline pumping. He lunges to deliver the killing blow, but at the last second, fear seizes him. He hesitates. Because of that split second of cowardice, he misses the heart. The thrust lands, but it isn't fatal. The boar, furious and very much alive, unleashes a destructive roar. The narration explains that this is a special ability possessed only by high-ranking demon Fong beasts. It is a magic-infused shout that hits like a physical shockwave. The blast knocks everyone back. The sword kid falls to his knees, coughing up blood. He looks at his shaking hands and realizes he can't move. The internal organ damage is severe. The boar recovers faster than they do and stands right in front of the paralyzed kid, ready to trample him into paste. The kid thinks it is over. He is going to die, but our boy steps in between them. He engages the harmony technique, spiral. He knows he can't take the force head-on with his current body, so he tries to disperse the impact in a spiral motion, redirecting the kinetic energy into the ground. The boar pushes against him with terrifying strength. Our boy realizes it is no use. He can't redirect at all. He wonders if he should use that technique. He doesn't know how long his unconditioned body can hold out if he releases his limiters, but it is better than dying here. The noble kid screams our boy's name, Ben. Our boy shouts back for him to just run, but the kid is too injured to move. Our boy grits his teeth and prepares to break his own limits. He concentrates, thinking, "Sink my heart, release these chains." Just as he is about to unleash his secret technique, a magic arrow slams into the boar, pushing it back with tremendous force. Our boy pauses, sensing a familiar and disgusting magic signature. He thinks, "That magic just now." A voice calls out, saying that was close. The two noble kids look up and gasp. It is Prince Heinz. The nobles immediately go into fanboy mode, shouting, "Prince Heinz." The prince approaches with a worried expression, telling them it is dangerous and asking them to get away immediately. Our boy stares at him and thinks, "So it was you after all?" The prince smiles that perfect, practiced smile. He declares that he couldn't just stand by. He claims that protecting those who try to live as members of the kingdom is the duty of royalty. The two noble kids look at him with tears in their eyes, completely charmed by his heroism. Our boy, however, wants to vomit. He thinks, "That's right. That is how you always capture people's hearts with words and then send them to their deaths." The prince looks at the noble kids, then at our boy. He suggests that now, everyone should combine their strength against this formidable enemy. Our boy looks him dead in the eye and says, "I refuse." The prince is actually shocked. He asks, "Just now, what?" Our boy repeats himself clearly. "I said I refuse. Your power isn't needed." The two noble kids are horrified. They shout at our boy, asking what is wrong with him and demanding he shows some respect to the prince. They point out that if his highness hadn't helped earlier, they would be dead. Our boy stands up and dusts himself off. He lies through his teeth, claiming that they would have already defeated the beast if the prince hadn't gotten in the way. The prince asks if he really doesn't need his help. Our boy confirms it. He steps in front of the group, facing the boar alone. He turns his back to the prince and tells him to just shut up and watch from the sidelines like royalty. Our boy shouts a warning that the beast is coming. The two noble kids brace themselves, adrenaline doing the heavy lifting for their broken bodies. One of them grits his teeth, declaring that this time, he will land at least one solid strike. The other agrees, saying he has one shot left in him. Our boy immediately shuts down the suicide pact. He tells them not to rush because dying now would be a total waste of effort. He orders them to wait for his signal. Prince Heinz watches from the sidelines, looking confused. He is used to people begging for his help, not telling him to shut up. Our boy shouts that it is time to settle this. He charges at the beast, his mind clear. He realizes he panicked earlier. He decides he doesn't need to use his secret technique. He can win this with pure skill. The hell boar has learned a lesson too. After failing 3 charges, it switches tactics, becoming cautious. It throws a hook thrust, trying to catch our boy off guard. Our boy parries it. He notices the openings are getting smaller, but it is nothing he can't handle. He manages to push the massive beast back with just his hands. The 2 noble kids are watching in disbelief. One of them gasps, wondering how he has that kind of speed without using magic. Even the prince is forced to analyze the situation. He realizes it isn't just speed. Our boy is moving by manipulating his center of gravity without kicking off the ground. He has completely eliminated the preparatory movements that usually signal an attack. It is a high-level technique the prince has only ever seen from top-tier martial artists. He wonders just who the hell this kid is. However, the spectators also notice the problem. One noble kid thinks that while our boy's spirit is like a raging flame, his physical strikes are effectively useless. Without magic, punching a demon fang beast is like giving it a gentle massage. Even the prince shakes his head, thinking it is no good. Our boy sees the beast getting frustrated and smirks. He says that is perfect. His goal wasn't to deal damage. It was to annoy the living daylights out of it. And it works. The beast loses its cool and prepares its big move. Our boy spots the telltale rotary motion of the destructive roar. This is the moment. Our boy shouts the command. The wind user doesn't hesitate. He fires his wind blade, but this time, he is mixed in the rocks and debris like our boy taught him. The gritty, solid projectile flies straight into the beast's open mouth, piercing its respiratory system right as it tries to scream. The beast chokes, stunned. Our boy jumps into the air, soaring above the monster. He praises the noble kid with a quick, well done. Then, gravity becomes his weapon. He comes down hard, executing a crushing blow, double twin. He slams both fists into the beast's skull, delivering the impact deep into its brain. The narration explains the physics of our boy's finishing move. The shockwaves delivered from the left and right converge at a single point inside the skull. It is like 2 ripples on a water surface merging to form a rogue wave. The boar's magic defense vanishes instantly. Our boy shouts that he is the last one. Ralph, the sword user, steps up. With the defense gone, his blade finally works as advertised. He slashes through the beast, cutting the hellboar clean in half. The giant pig falls. The noble kids stand there, panting and staring at the corpse. They can't believe they actually defeated a hellboar. Our boy walks over to Falk, the wind user, and offers him a hand to get up. He asks if he can move. Falk groans, clutching his stomach, convinced his internal organs are damaged. Our boy corrects him with a diagnosis. The boar's roar didn't liquefy his guts. It was a technique using magic-infused sound waves to scramble his semicircular canals. It looks flashy and feels terrible, but he points out that you can withstand it by simply covering your ears. Falk grimaces, saying he will remember that, though he never wants to fight one of those things again. But now they have a new problem. A mouth problem. They look around and realize only 2 tiers of heaven flowers remain intact. The others were crushed during the chaotic fight. They remember the examiner's warning that forming large groups causes difficulties. This is exactly what he meant. The sun is setting, there is no time to search for more, and there are 4 people standing there. Falk takes charge. He picks one flower and immediately hands it to the prince. He asks him to accept it. Our boy asks if he is seriously sucking up right now, giving the prize to the guy who just stood there and watched. Fox snaps back, saying not to call it sucking up. It is the natural thing for a vassal to do. Then Falk takes the second flower. He hands it to our boy. Our boy is surprised and asks if he is sure. Falk tells him not to misunderstand. He just doesn't want to feel like he owes Agaltha anything. He introduces himself properly. My name is Falk, the wind user. He points to his friend. That is Ralph. He tells our boy to remember it. Our boy looks at the flower, then at the 2 exhausted nobles. He introduces himself as Van. He shakes their hands, but he can't resist ruining the moment with a dry remark. He says, well, nice to meet you, but if you guys fail the exam, we'll never meet again anyway. Falk and Ralph shouted him to shut up. They insist that if they search now, they might still find something. But the prince decides it is time for his close-up. He approaches a patch of crushed plants. He smiles benevolently and channels his life magic. He says something poetic about the flower blooming brilliantly in the sunlight. The crushed flowers stand up, fully revived and glowing. He hands 2 flowers to Falk and Ralph. The nobles are practically weeping with gratitude, thanking His Royal Highness for his generosity. The prince looks at the sky and notes that sunset is near, so they should leave the forest quickly. As they walk back, Fox starts scolding our boy again. He asks why he is giving orders while His Royal Highness is present. But the prince interrupts the lecture with a very specific question. He asks our boy why he is covering his footprints with the earth while he walks. Our boy freezes. He asks what the prince means. The prince explains that he has heard about this before. It is a specific type of footwork designed to hide the traces of one's own technique. It is known as assassin's etiquette. Our boy stays silent, neither confirming nor denying. The prince presses on, noting that the martial arts our boy showed earlier and that ingrained habit of erasing his tracks are too specific to be a coincidence. He looks our boy in the eye and asks, "Could it be that you are an assassin?" The prince's mind immediately spirals into paranoia. He thinks about his many enemies. His father, the king, strengthened the kingdom by conquering lands and collecting princesses like trophies. However, the prince's mother, the 5th queen, was a domestic noble from the start. Because of this, his siblings and their foreign mothers live in constant fear that the king intends to make him the next ruler. He doesn't know when or where an assassination attempt might come, which is why he tries to work alone. He suspects that this boy, Van, is an agent sent to kill him, and he decides he must deal with the threat right now. Our boy realizes his mistake instantly. His old habits slipped out because he let his guard down after defeating the demon Fang beast. Technically, the prince is right, he is a former assassin, but he can't exactly put that on his resume. He decides the best strategy is to play dumb. The prince presses him, his suspicion evident, asking if our boy is trying to feign ignorance. He coldly states that if that is how he wants to play it, fine. The tension between them spikes so high it could cut glass. The 2 noble kids, Falk and Ralph, realize something is wrong and try to intervene. But our boy moves first. He jumps in, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. He invades the prince's personal space, slapping a hand onto the royal shoulder. He laughs and says he is just kidding, telling the prince not to make such a scary face. The prince is genuinely shocked. Our boy moved like a phantom. He didn't even see the movement until the hand was already on him. Our boy smiles disarmingly and apologizes, claiming his manners are lacking because he is from the countryside. He asks the prince to cut him some slack. The prince forces himself to calm down, analyzing the situation. He realizes he deliberately showed an opening, but the boy didn't take the bait to kill him. He thinks our boy is testing him. He knows that if he lets his emotions take over here, his path to the throne will disappear. He decides to pivot back to logic. He tells our boy he doesn't mind the casual speech, but he insists on an answer. He asks again what that gesture was and if our boy is truly not an assassin. Our boy plays his trump card. He explains that the noble who recommended him, Helen St. North, gave him specific advice. Since his only weapon is hand-to-hand combat, she told him it is better to hide his techniques and his footsteps as much as possible. Internally, our boy apologizes to Helen for using her name to cover his tracks. The prince is stunned. He asks if our boy really has a recommendation from House St. North. Even the noble kids are impressed. Fox remarks that House St. North isn't just a noble family. They are high up in the hierarchy. The prince's internal calculus shifts. He knows Helen as the Ice Flower Lady, a genius who ranks in the top 5 at the academy in both scholarship and ability. If it is her, it wouldn't be strange for her to be well-versed in assassin methods. Furthermore, House St. North is a loyal family that has long served the kingdom. They have no reason to assist in a plot to assassinate a prince. Ralph, the sword user, breaks the silence with a valid question. He asks why House St. North would recommend a random commoner like Van. Our boy shrugs and says she just gave him the recommendation and told him to take the exam. Fox is skeptical that such things happen. The prince offers a theory. He suggests that the St. North family likely intends to give our boy a formal education and have him serve their house. Seeing his hand-to-hand combat skills, it makes perfect sense. Then the prince smiles a little too perfectly and admits that if he had met our boy first, he might have done the same thing. Our boy smirks back and says thanks. The prince changes the subject to the giant dead pig in the room. He admits he doesn't know what would have happened if he had encountered the demon Fang beast alone. He calls them his lifesavers and offers his heartfelt thanks. The 2 noble kids bow, claiming it was an honor. Our boy, incapable of being a sycophant, shrugs and bluntly states that he didn't fight for the prince's sake. The noble kids panic, warning him that he is about to get arrested for disrespect. But the prince finds this refreshing. He thinks that rather than seeking a reward, this boy shows defiance. He labels our boy a truly mysterious man. Just like that, the group finishes the exam. We cut to the outside of the forest, where the students who already passed are congratulating each other on their mediocrity. The battered noble kids wonder what to tell their fathers. Meanwhile, the examiners are counting heads. The lead examiner checks his list and notes there are 4 candidates remaining, including His Royal Highness. The corrupt second examiner is sweating bullets. He thinks this is strange. Originally, this forest only had weak beasts that the prince could easily defeat to look good. He wanted to avoid a situation where royalty failed the exam. But the massive hellboar he unleashed to kill our boy hasn't returned, and neither has the boy. He wonders if something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a student shouts that someone is coming out. The corrupt examiner grins, relieved. He assumes it must be His Royal Highness, finally returning after the accident. But out of the shadows walks our boy. He looks around at the crowd and asks, with maximum sass, if everyone is here to greet him. The corrupt examiner's jaw hits the floor. He gasps, completely unable to process that his target is alive and well. Our boy steps out of the shadows, looking casually disheveled. The purple-haired examiner, who actually cares about his job, asks if he has returned safely and if he has any injuries. Our boy shrugs, saying it is nothing serious. The corrupt examiner, however, has a different reaction. He practically shouts, asking why our boy is still alive. The good examiner looks at his colleague like he just grew a second head and asks, "Professor?" Our boy grins, enjoying the panic. He asks if it was bad for him to be alive. The corrupt examiner realizes he just said the quiet part out loud and starts stuttering, claiming he is just impressed that a student survived alone. Our boy points behind him and corrects the man. He wasn't alone. Falk and Ralph stumble out of the bushes, dragging a massive carcass. They complain that the thing is incredibly heavy. The examiners stare in shock. The good examiner gasps, realizing it is a demon Fong beast. Falk explains that it suddenly attacked them in the forest. Since it might have been targeting His Highness, they brought it back as evidence. Both examiners shout that it is impossible. The corrupt examiner mutters under his breath, wondering how the beast failed to finish them off. The good examiner catches this slip and asks what he just said. The professor tries to recover, stuttering that he meant it is impressive they defeated it. But then, the main character of the kingdom arrives. Prince Heinz walks in, declaring that it was truly a magnificent battle. The corrupt examiner realizes he is in deep trouble. He sent a hitman beast after a group that included royalty. If this gets out, he is finished. He spots the prince and immediately starts sucking up, asking if His Highness is alright and praising him for defeating the beast. He laughs nervously, shouting, "Long live the kingdom." Our boy and the 2 noble kids whisper among themselves. They note that the guy is acting super suspicious. The prince shuts down the praise. He reiterates that he was barely present. He declares that defeating the demon Fong beast was their achievement, pointing specifically at our boy. He adds that without him, they all might have died. The examiners are floored. Fox slaps our boy on the shoulder, vouching for him. He says this guy is amazing. Even though he is a Galda, he knows a lot about magic. Ralph agrees, adding that they followed Van's command. The corrupt examiner refuses to believe it. He asks why a Galda would lead nobles. The prince interrupts with the ultimate trump card. He reminds them that our boy has the patronage of the St. North family, so there is nothing strange about his confidence. Our boy sighs internally. Helen didn't actually teach him anything, but he decides to roll with the lie. The crowd of students starts whispering. The prince's endorsement, combined with the rumor of the Ice Flower Lady's recommendation, changes the narrative instantly. They start saying that maybe there are capable people even among the Galda. The good examiner bows to our boy, thanking him for protecting His Highness. Our boy, allergic to taking credit, bluntly replies that he didn't protect anyone. It attacked, so they just counterattacked. He hands over the flowers. The formalities begin. The corrupt examiner, looking defeated, calls out the names of those who passed. Prince Heinz, Falk Waltrex, Ralph Azenbach, and Van Krieger. The noble kids cheer, celebrating their survival. Our boy watches them, thinking that, against all odds, he has officially become an academy student. The prince turns to the good examiner and orders a truthful investigation report regarding the beast's appearance. The corrupt examiner stays silent, knowing his career is likely over. The scene shifts to the entrance ceremony. We see a grand hall filled with students. A speaker stands at the podium, welcoming the new elite. He preaches that the academy values not merely magical talent, but the true nobility required to become the kingdom's sword and shield. Our boy stands in the crowd, reflecting on the surreal nature of the moment. In his previous life, he could never have imagined standing alongside nobles in a ceremony like this. He realizes the world is definitely beginning to change. He vows to walk this path with all his might until the day discrimination against Galda is eliminated. From the stands, Helen watches our boy with a satisfied look. She then turns and leaves the ceremony, entering a dimly lit room where 4 people are standing around a round table. This is the Student Council of Nightmares. A girl with pink hair speaks first. She asks who is showing up last and acting all high and mighty. This is Karina Luther, the Sword Princess of 1,000 Miles. A girl with red hair cuts to the chase, asking why they gathered today. This is Amelia Rodenwald, the Silver Strategist. A purple-haired guy wearing sunglasses indoors, because he is just that cool, says there is only one topic the 5 brilliant crowns discuss. This is Arnold Claudius, the Silent Beauty. And finally, a blonde guy speaks up. He says they are here to discuss dealing with the foreign substance. This is the 8th Prince. Helen plays innocent, asking what they mean by foreign substance. The 8th Prince notes that a quite unusual event occurred. For the first time since its founding, the Academy accepted a Galdan student. Karina, the Sword Princess, laughed sarcastically. She remarks that the school has become quite tolerant, hasn't it? She jokes that next there will be monsters enrolling. The 8th Prince is not amused. He calls it a barbaric situation where a non-magic user is treated as their equal. He finds it disgusting. Moreover, the one who recommended that Galda is apparently a member of their own group, the glorious 5 brilliant crowns. The entire room turns to look at Helen. They demand an explanation. The narration explains the Academy's ecosystem. It gathers noble sons with strong magic and even higher pride. Naturally, their massive egos clash constantly, and it is not unusual for small disputes to turn into full-blown duels. To keep order in this chaotic zoo, a group of idealistic students formed a disciplinary organization. They are the 5 brilliant crowns, the absolute top of the food chain. We cut to the council room. The 8th Prince demands an explanation from Helen regarding her recommendation of a Galda. Helen simply shrugs and says she acknowledges that he has trained. That's it. Karina, the pink-haired sword princess, looks like she smelled something rotten. She asks if Helen has lost her mind, claiming there is no way a person cursed by God could possess real power. Amelia, the red-haired silver strategist, agrees, wondering how someone without magic can be the kingdom's sword and shield. The 8th Prince doubles down on the racism, stating it is common sense in this country that God does not exist for those without magic. Helen fires back with a quote that should be on a motivational poster. She asks if he really said common sense. She calls it a convenient stock excuse people use to stop thinking and justify bad customs. The tension in the room spikes, but Arnold intervenes. He suggests a simple solution. Why not test him? They should see if this boy, Van Kruger, truly has power worthy of the Academy. The 8th Prince agrees. He turns to Helen and warns her that if the boy lacks strength, her judgment will be called into question. Helen is unbothered. She says that is fine by her. She doesn't care what they do to him. But she drops a warning. If they don't want to embarrass themselves, they shouldn't underestimate him. Karina takes that personally. She volunteers to do the testing. She tells Helen that she wants to crush the boy, Helen's precious favorite, and Helen's arrogance all at once. Helen smiles, basically saying, "Good luck with that." The scene shifts to 1 week later. Our boy is walking through the corridor. Other students are gossiping about rankings and homework, and our boy realizes he has been living a surprisingly peaceful life since enrolling. Suddenly, we are in a classroom. A professor decides to ruin the peace. He calls on Kruger and asks him to explain the 4-element theory in magic. The class goes silent. Ralph and Falk look at each other in panic, admitting they have no idea because that is way beyond elementary level. The professor smirks, saying it might be too much to ask of a Galda after all. Our boy doesn't hesitate. He recites the answer like he swallowed a textbook. He explains that the 4-element theory is for stabilizing the basic factors: flow, density, resonance, and fixation. It prevents the detonation and backflow of magic power and serves as the design groundwork for modern magic formulae. He then asks the professor, with maximum politeness, if he would like a more detailed explanation. The professor is completely shut down. He stammers that will be all. Our boy notes that since that moment, the blatant harassment from teachers has completely stopped. Later, Ralph smacks our boy on the back, asking why he has such a serious face. He invites him to eat. Our boy smiles, a rare event, and admits that his peaceful life is partly thanks to Ralph and Falk. He says they have been a big help. Ralph is confused by the sudden affection but is happy to head to the cafeteria. However, their lunch plans are cancelled. A voice calls out to hold it right there. A girl with long purple hair blocks their path. Our boy apologizes for not noticing her, but she isn't here for apologies. She puts a sword to our boy's throat. She demands to know what he is doing. She claims that commoners are supposed to kneel before nobles, and since he is a Galda, the proper etiquette is to press his forehead to the floor and grovel. Our boy calmly replies that there is no reason to go that far. This is the academy, where they are all just students. Ralph tries to intervene, telling the upperclassmen she is going too far, but she ignores him. She presses the blade closer, warning our boy not to be stubborn. She promises him a peaceful school life if he shows the obedience befitting his status. Our boy sighs. He admits that basic respect is fine, but when someone tries to force him with power, he feels like doing the opposite. He grins and grabs the blade with his bare fingers. The girl is shocked. She instinctively pulls her sword back, worried he might take it, but our boy anticipates this. He twists the blade while pushing it back toward her. Her stance breaks. As she grips the handle tighter to compensate, our boy brings his hand down on the flat of the thin blade. Snap. He breaks the sword with his bare hand using a technique called break bright. By combining bending and twisting, he pushed the metal to its stress limit and shattered the structure with a sharp impact. He looks at the broken pieces and calls it fragile. He asks if they mixed ink into the metal or something. He roasts her weapon choice, saying that handing him a sword without magic reinforcement is basically asking him to snap it. His internal narration notes that training swords are often mixed with zinc for rust resistance and cost, making them brittle and unable to withstand real combat pressure. The girl glares at him, stating that real blades aren't allowed on campus since she isn't one of the 5 brilliant crowns. Then she says something ominous. Anyway, I've done my part. Our boy realizes she was just the opening act. She notes that he does indeed have some fangs. Suddenly, the main event arrives. Karina, the pink-haired sword princess, steps forward. She declares that his defiant attitude toward an upper-class man and his destruction of property cannot be overlooked. As one of the 5 brilliant crowns, she will correct him herself. The purple-haired girl bows, calling her Lady Karina. Our boy stares at the newcomer. He recognizes her instantly from his past life. This is Karina Luther, the woman who reaped thousands of lives on the battlefield. And now, she is standing in a school hallway, looking ready to add one more kill to her account. The narration takes us back to the dark history of the previous timeline. In our boy's first life as an assassin, several rebellions shook the kingdom from the shadows. The most dangerous faction was a remnant of the purification sect called the Circle of White Annihilation, and the most feared warrior among them was Karina of the Blood Edge. She was a demon swordsman who mastered every sword technique known to man and killed numerous heroes. Although the kingdom eventually destroyed the Circle at great cost, the chaos they caused sparked the brutal struggle for the throne. Our boy saw her only once on the battlefield, but there is no doubt in his mind. The girl standing in front of him is Karina of the Blood Edge. He is confused. Why is the kingdom's sworn enemy attending the academy like a model student? Karina interrupts his thoughts. She adds another charge to his list of crimes. She accuses him of glaring at an upperclassman without speaking, calling it incredibly rude. Our boy blinks and asks, "What?" He bows slightly and offers a sincere-sounding apology. He says he is sorry, but honestly, she didn't seem like an upperclassman to him. Ralph turns pale. He realizes our boy just insulted a nuclear warhead. He shouts for them to stop and frantically explains to our boy what the 5 brilliant crowns actually are. They are the Academy's top 5 students, possessing real power and top-class family backgrounds. At just 13 years old, Karina is the real deal. Our boy sarcastically thanks him for the intro. Internally, he is running a new calculation. So, the Blood Edge was actually from the upper nobility. Her status must have been erased from history after she became a rebel. Meeting her here is a surprise, but it presents a golden opportunity. He thinks that if he kills her right now, he could prevent the future rebellion. That would stop the succession war before it starts and destroy even Prince Heinz's shot at the throne. It is a tempting offer. Save the world, murder a teenager. Karina, however, is done talking. She accuses him of thinking about something else while she is speaking, which she considers an especially rude crime. She draws her sword. She reminds him that she has special permission to carry a real blade on campus. Our boy recognizes her stance immediately. It is a surprise draw, one of Blood Edge's signature moves. She is incredibly fast. Usually, her victims die without ever seeing the blade leave the sheath. Ralph screams at our boy to just apologize before he gets sliced. Our boy tells Ralph to step back. He says there is something he needs to confirm. Karina calls him foolish. She unleashes her technique. In a blur of motion, she strikes. But instead of slicing him in half, she simply pats our boy on the back with the flat of her sword. The tension breaks. A student asks Lady Karina what happened. She sheaths her sword and declares that she will hold his punishment for now. She says they will settle this another time. Her subordinate, the purple-haired girl, is confused by this sudden mercy, but follows Karina as she walks away. Karina mutters to herself that it would be a waste to finish a man like that in an instant. However, the moment they turn the corner and are out of sight, the facade crumbles. The purple-haired girl asks, "Lady Karina, why did you spare him?" Karina stops walking. She whispers, "It is not that I spared him." Then the sword princess collapses to the ground. The purple-haired girl panics, shouting her name. Karina grimaces and moves her hand from her chest. Beneath her uniform, there is a massive bruise forming. The purple-haired girl stares in shock, asking what this is. Karina doesn't answer, but the truth is clear. In that split second where she supposedly spared him, our boy had launched a counterattack so fast that nobody even saw it. She didn't let him go because she was merciful. She walked away because she could barely stand. Quick pause. If you're enjoying the story so far, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to make it worth to bring next parts. Done? Awesome, let's get back to it. Karina is currently on the floor explaining the physics of why she feels like she just got hit by a truck. She tells her purple-haired sidekick that she has seen this in martial arts texts. It is called a pressure point, a vital spot where nerves are concentrated. The pain makes it practically impossible to move properly. The purple-haired girl tries to save face for her boss, suggesting it was a mutual strike. Karina corrects her immediately. It wasn't a mutual strike. It wasn't even close. Karina replays the tape in her head. She intended to strike his neck. But that man stepped in without hesitation, aiming for her vitals. She reflexively leaned back to avoid death, which ruined her aim, causing her sword to only pat his back. Meanwhile, his fist accurately found her pressure point. She recognizes this as the principle of a combined strike from a certain school, a technique where you step in matching the opponent's attack motion, performing defense and offense in a single movement. She wonders how a random teenager knows Grandmaster-level techniques. The purple-haired girl interrupts the internal monologue to declare that since Lady Karina was the one left standing, the victory is clear. Karina agrees out loud to keep up appearances, saying, "That is right." But inside, she knows the truth is different. The pressure point causes great pain, but it isn't lethal. That man, incredibly, tried to subdue her without harming her. If this were real combat, if he had intended to kill her, she would be dead right now. She stands up, dignity bruised but intact, and decides that she underestimated him. She vows that next time, she will prepare a blade worthy of breaking that man's spines. The scene shifts to Ralph holding our boy, demanding to know what that thing he wanted to confirm was. Our boy waves it off, saying it might just be standard procedure. Ralph insists on an explanation because they were terrified. Our boy starts analyzing the data. Karina said threatening things, but she used a training sword, not her real blade. She didn't even use the unique magic that symbolizes her terror in the future. Even while calling it punishment, there was a strange consideration in her attacks. Our boy realizes the blood edge surprisingly has a kind side. He thinks that if the current Karina isn't a monster yet, he might be able to change the future without killing her. He voices this optimism, but Ralph just dies. He assumes our boy took a hit to the head and needs to go to the infirmary immediately. The next day, the social consequences kick in. Our boy walks into the cafeteria and tries to sit at a table. Immediately, the other students grab their trays and scatter like he has a contagious disease. They gossip loudly, saying he defied one of the 5 crowns and a purge is coming because the Galda got too cocky. Our boy just smirks. Suddenly, Fox shouts across the room, telling them not to let that talk get to him. Ralph agrees, calling those types weather vanes that just turn with the wind. Our boy claims he isn't bothered, but Ralph offers to go with him to apologize to the upperclassmen. Fox goes one better, offering to have his father put in a good word with House Luther. Our boy looks at his friends and calls them busybodies. Ralph laughs, noting it is hard to imagine they are friends considering how they first met. Fox begs them not to bring that up. Our boy appreciates the sentiment, but he insists he will settle things with Karina himself. The boys are confused. Our boy thinks that to prevent the future tragedy, he needs to confront Karina now. He smiles and downplays the threat, asking why they are so scared since the 5 crowns are basically just glorified hall monitors. Ralph and Fox are horrified by this disrespect. Fox asks if he even understands the gravity of his situation. But before he can answer, the final boss arrives. Helen St. North walks in and asks if she may have a moment with Van Kruger. The cafeteria is in a state of collective shock. Our boy looks up from his lunch, annoyed, and asks what is going on. Helen simply states that she wants to talk and promises it won't take long. She orders him to come with her. Our boy sighs, gets up, and follows her out, leaving his unfinished meal and a room full of confused students behind him. Ralph is equally stressed, noting that our boy talks to her so casually. He wonders what is wrong with that guy's survival instincts. Our boy sits with Helen at a private table. She gets straight to business. She explains that as one of the 5 brilliant crowns, she has been assigned to test his abilities. Our boy complains that she should have told him that sooner. He apologizes, admitting he didn't expect her to move this quickly. By her, he means Karina Luther. Helen confirms this. She explains that Karina is said to be the next head of House Luther, the pinnacle among nobles. Our boy admits her skill was convincing, but he notes that she doesn't seem like just a genius. He struggles to put it into words, but he says it looked like she has thrown away everything in her life except the sword. Helen nods, calling him perceptive. She drops the tragic backstory. Karina wasn't just born a genius. She was originally an illegitimate child of the head of House Luther. Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't have been a noble at all. But when she was 10 years old, during a casual practice match, she completely destroyed her 17-year-old half-brother, who was supposed to be the heir. Because of her overwhelming power, she was taken in as the legitimate heir. But it was a Cinderella story gone wrong. She grew up surrounded by jealousy and hatred, never receiving a drop of family love. Our boy asks why Helen knows so much about this. Helen claims you naturally hear these things if you listen to gossip. But then she reveals a personal memory. Before Karina came to the academy, Helen saw her once at an evening party. She was standing apart from the crowd, just staring at her father's back. Her eyes looked incredibly lonely. Our boy asks if she tried to talk to her. Helen shakes her head. She couldn't back then. They are both from major noble houses, so showing sympathy to a controversial figure like Karina could have been seen as rudely meddling in another family's affairs. Our boy sighs, noting that nobles really are troublesome creatures. Helen agrees. She regrets being caught up in those social constraints. She feels that if things continue like this, that girl will stray from the right path someday. Our boy stays silent, but he asks what she would do if that happened. Helen answers instantly. She would want to stop her. She admits that the fact she looked away back then has stayed with her all this time. Hearing this, the puzzle pieces click into place for our boy. He realizes that Helen's ability as a magician is top tier. She is in no way inferior to the heroes he saw in his previous life. Yet in that timeline, he never knew her name. He had wondered about that for a long time. Now he knows why. In the original timeline, Helen probably tried to stop Karina after she became the Blood Edge. As a result, she likely lost her life and never got the chance to make her name known. Helen warns him not to let sympathy cloud his judgment. Karina's talent is genuine. If he is careless, she really could kill him. Our boy grins. He says he knows, and hearing that story just made him more motivated. He promises to take Helen's regret and smash it to pieces. Internal narration explains his resolve. In his previous life, no one could stop Karina, but this time is different. He will break her, twist her, train her, and stop her before she becomes a monster. Helen is shocked by his confidence, but she admits those are welcome words. She asks if he actually has a countermeasure for her swordsmanship. Our boy says of course he does. He tells her it is perfect timing and asks her to keep him company after class for practice. Cut to after class. Ralph and Fox are sneaking around like terrible spies. Ralph asks where Vern went. Fox scolds him, asking if peeping is a bit much, but Ralph counters that he is curious because our boy disappeared with the Ice Flower Lady the second class ended. They spot them in a courtyard. They are training. Our boy dodges a barrage of magic. Helen casts Ice Garden Thorns, sending a wave of sharp ice at him. Our boy doesn't retreat. He steps in and shatters the ice with his bare hands. The noble kids are shocked, wondering how he is doing that. Our boy stops, turns his head, and looks directly at the bushes where his friends are hiding. He smiles a terrifying smile. He calls out to them, saying, "You too." Perfect timing. He invites them to join the next attack, making it clear that volunteering was never optional. The scene shifts to the academy corridor, where the 8th prince decides to be a micromanager. He intercepts Karina and asks if she needs something, but what he really wants to know is why she hasn't crushed the Galda yet. Karina bows, maintaining perfect etiquette even while plotting violence. She says she will handle it very soon because the item she requested from her family has finally arrived. Right on cue, her purple-haired sidekick struggles into view, carrying a literal coffin on her back. She asks Lady Karina where she should take this massive piece of gothic luggage. Karina instructs her to take it to her room and to handle it with care. The prince looks at the macabre box. He admits he has heard rumors about this item before. Karina asks if he thinks this is overkill for a mere Galdar. The prince smiles, but it is not a nice smile. He says not at all. For someone like her, a beast cloud in human form, there is no storage container more fitting than a coffin. He grins, clearly enjoying the idea of unleashed violence. Next, we see a crowd of students gathering in front of the Academy's news board. A new proclamation has been posted. It states that Karina Luther, one of the 5 brilliant crowns, challenges the first-year student Van Kruber to a duel as punishment for disturbing public order. The venue is the Academy's Great Training Grounds, commonly known as the White Ring Arena. It is a sacred stage used for official duels and special trials. Basically, it is where students go to get publicly humiliated. We cut to the arena. The stands are packed with students who smell blood in the water. Our boy is down on the field, casually stretching his hamstrings. Ralph, Falk, and Helen are standing on the sidelines, acting as his corner team. Ralph notes that it is quite the crowd for a witness list, but the mood feels pretty grim. Falk agrees, pointing out that no one here actually thinks this is going to be a duel. They think it is going to be an execution. Helen confirms this. She explains that it isn't technically a duel. It is a punishment. Common sense dictates that a fight between a 5-crown and a Galdar can only be a one-sided slaughter. That is what everyone assumes. Ralph shrugs, saying maybe that is the common sense view. But Falk grins and says they know better. Our boy is not a man you can measure with common sense. Helen nods, but then she narrows her eyes. She points to a specific spot in the VIP section. The 8th prince is watching. She wonders why a prince would come to watch a lowly duel like this, unless he expects a show. Suddenly, the doors open and Karina enters. She is dragging the coffin behind her. The crowd gasps. Ralph asks what on earth that is. Helen sighs, realizing Karina actually brought that out. Our boy looks at the giant box and feigns shock. He asks if that is his coffin. He calls it pretty thoughtful of her to handle the funeral arrangements. Karina tells him to drop the jokes. She sneers that this coffin is far too good for someone like him. She opens it to reveal the contents. It isn't for a body. It is filled with swords. Helen explains the lore to the confused boys. It is a portable armory passed down by the Sword Saints of House Luther. Ralph stares at it and wonders what the Sword Saints were even thinking making something like that. It seems excessive for a school fight. Back on the ground, the trash talk begins. Karina declares she will make him regret ever setting foot in this academy. Our boy smirks. He retorts that she shouldn't be the one regretting it. He promises to smash that precious coffin of hers to pieces. Then, he looks around for a referee and asks how they get the signal to start. Karina doesn't wait for a bell. She shouts that it is already started and launches herself at our boy mid-sentence. The duel begins with zero chill. Karina launches herself at our boy, but he meets her aggression with a punch. She blocks it with her sword, proving her reflexes are sharper than her personality. The peanut gallery in the stands immediately loses their collective minds. They scream so fast, and instant movement magic, because apparently, in this kingdom, doing cardio is indistinguishable from sorcery. One student calls out the obvious, reminding everyone not to be stupid because Galda can't use magic. But logic has left the chat. Falk watches the fight and mutters that no matter how many times he sees it, it looks exactly like the high-level spell Phantom Step. Helen steps in to provide the commentary track. She explains that Phantom Step is just a fancy name for physics. Ralph asks what the heck that means because his brain is currently buffering. Helen breaks it down. Normally, when people move, they kick off the ground like normal functioning bipeds. That creates a preparatory motion of tall, but our boy doesn't kick off. He slides his entire body forward using center of gravity manipulation and pelvic rotation. Basically, he is moonwalking forward at high speed. It is the visual equivalent of lag in a video game. Ralph stares blankly and admits that even with the explanation, he doesn't get it at all. Fox sighs, noting that it doesn't matter if they understand the math. The point is that from this distance, the movement is unreadable. Helen agrees, adding that for Karina, having it happen right in front of her face must look like he is teleporting. She recalls her own trauma from the Gouda forest, realizing she fell for the same trick. Falk analyzes the tactical situation. He thinks Van has the advantage at close range because a longsword is awkward to swing in a phone booth. The crowd thinks the same, expecting our boy to land a hit. But Karina decides to rewrite the rulebook. Just as our boy moves in to strike, thinking he is safe from the blade, she blocks and counters. She manages to slice our boy's arm slightly, forcing him to jump back. She smirks, asking if he thought he wouldn't get hurt just because he stayed close. Our boy smiles, ignoring the bleeding, and says, "Now we're talking." Ralph screams, half swording. The narration pauses to educate us. Longswords have an unsharpened section near the hilt called the ricasso. Half-swording is a technique where you grip that section with one hand to control the sword like a spear or a lever at close range. Ralph is shocked. He says he has heard of this on the battlefield, where knights bash each other in the mud, but it is absolutely not the kind of technique a noble lady learns at finishing school. Focht realizes the rumors about her being the next sword saint aren't just marketing hype. Helen, however, grimaces. She notes that against Van, that was a bad move. Up in the VIP seats, the 8th prince is watching intently. He repeats our boy's phrase, "I'm not done yet," clearly entertained by the violence. His purple-haired sidekick, let's call her Coffin Girl, provides the magical analysis. She explains that for magic users, attacks without magic power are extremely difficult to evade. They are trained to sense mana like a radar. That is precisely why Van's strikes, which contain absolutely zero magic, become unknowable attacks to them. She argues there is no way a strike using only physical strength can pierce Karina's magic defense. It should be like punching a tank. But down in the arena, reality is disagreeing with her theory. Karina blocks another hit, but suddenly, she feels a sharp pain. Her vision blurs for a second. She stumbles, completely confused. She asks our boy what he did. Our boy shrugs, gaslighting her with expert precision. He says, "Who knows? Maybe your magic concentration is sloppy." Karina glares at him, but then she realizes something is very, very wrong. Her invincible shield isn't just leaking, it's vibrating. The narration explains the physics of our boy's next move. He uses empty palm. By utilizing wind pressure from a palm strike, he delivers a shockwave straight into her ear canal, scrambling the semicircular canals deep in her inner ear. Basically, he just gave her vertigo without even touching her head. The crowd is baffled, wondering why Lady Karina is stumbling back like she's dizzy. The 8th prince loses his temper. He stands up and shouts at her, demanding to know what she is doing and asking if she calls herself a noble with that pathetic display. The 9th prince, he just watches the scene with intense interest. Our boy asks if they should end this soon. The purple-haired lackey screams for Lady Karina. Our boy sees an opening and jumps forward to finish the fight. But Karina is done playing fair. She activates a massive magic circle. The ground shatters like cheap pottery. A shockwave blasts outward, pushing our boy back before he can land his hit. Ralph gapes, asking what just happened. Our boy analyzes the situation. All she did was swing a sword downward, yet the raw magic power was enough to shake him to the core of his body. However, the sword Karina held crumbles into dust. Karina explains that this is why generations of sword saints acquire the sword coffin. Her technique, Heavenfall Blade, puts so much mana into the weapon that normal steel commits suicide rather than endure it. As they can see, the sword couldn't withstand the output. That is the downside. The 8th prince smirks, realizing she had been holding back until now. The purple-haired lackey confirms that anyone struck by that technique would be reduced to dust. Our boy looks at the pile of metal shavings and dryly remarks that she should treat her weapons better. She is burning through inventory faster than a chaotic RPG player. Karina smiles back, but it is a scary smile. She declares she will end this with the next strike and grabs a fresh sword from the coffin. The mood in the arena shifts. A student in the crowd realizes she really means to kill him. Another argues it is only natural punishment for a Galda who defied a noble. Ralph is terrified, noting that if that hits, Ben will genuinely die. Fox tries to stay calm. He argues that as long as it doesn't land, Van can use his phantom step to dodge. Helen shuts down that optimism. She explains the grim reality. Van's attacks are landing, yes, but they aren't heavy enough to knock Karina out in one blow. Meanwhile, Karina's Heavenfall Blade can annihilate Van in a single strike. Strategy-wise, Karina will intentionally take a hit just to land her nuke point blank. Even if he dodges a direct hit, the shockwave alone at that range would turn his internal organs into soup since he has no magic defense. Fop pales. He asks what Van can possibly do then. Back in the duel, Karina offers an ultimatum. She tells him one last time to accept the status befitting his birth. If he does that, she will spare his life. Our boy sighs. He asks if she is really that obsessed with status. Karina doubles down. She preaches that magical strength is determined by bloodline, and that is the very foundation of the kingdom's order. Our boy smirks. He calls that a textbook noble answer. Then, he decides to aim for the emotional jugular. He asks her if she really thinks becoming a true noble will make her dear father finally acknowledge her. Karina freezes. Our boy drops the bomb. He reveals that he knows the truth. She is half commoner, isn't she? That is why she is trying so hard to become a real noble, desperate for daddy's validation. Karina snaps. Hearing her deepest insecurity broadcasted in public breaks her composure completely. She screams, "You," and begins charging an absurd amount of power into her blade. Fok watches from the stands, confused. He wonders what they are talking about, but he realizes Van is deliberately provoking her. He is trying to draw out a serious no-holding-back strike. Fox wonders why he would do that. Then he realizes Van is planning to use that move. He needs her to commit fully so he can counter it. Karina decides to monologue while she charges up her murder weapon. She claims that she felt sympathy for our boy because he is of foreign substance that slipped into noble society, just like she was. She insists that she planned to settle this without killing him. But since he didn't appreciate her kindness and insulted her instead, she has no choice. She screams that she will kill him as he wishes. She unleashes the Heavenfall blade. But then the impossible happens. Our boy stops the Heavenfall blade with his bare palms. The crowd loses their minds. Someone shouts about sword notch disarming, while another screams that such a technique shouldn't work in real combat against a nuke. The narration steps in to explain the physics, because what just happened is realistically impossible. Stopping a descending blade with your hands usually results in losing your hands. But our boy used a technique called steel grip, zero-style grasp. First, he matched the relative speed between his hands and the blade as closely as possible. Then, in the fleeting instant of contact before the sword completed its downswing, he broke, dispersed, and absorbed the force. It is the same move that humbled Helen's ice spears, and now it has completely nullified Karina's ultimate attack. Karina is stunned. Her tremendous power was just killed instantly. She stammers that it is impossible. Our boy doesn't give her time to process the physics lesson. He shoves her backward. She flies back toward her coffin and hits the ground on her knees. She coughs up blood, completely confused. The spectators are having an existential crisis. The Sword Princess has been brought to her knees by a Galda. Is this truly the power of a commoner? The 8th prince looks shocked. The purple-haired coffin girl is panic-stricken, shouting for Lady Karina. Even our boy's cheer squad, Helen, Ralph, and Fok, are nervous, yelling at him not to let his guard down. Our boy stands over her, silent. Karina looks up, trembling. She asks why he isn't finishing her off. She accuses him of showing mercy. Our boy sighs. He denies it, but then delivers a devastating roast. He says he has no intention of bullying a half-baked noble lady. He tells her she hasn't shown everything yet. He demands she show him the real Karina. Karina snaps. She mutters such pleasant words, and then scrambles to the coffin. The 8th prince smirks, realizing she is finally drawing that weapon. Even the purple-haired lackey looks terrified, admitting it is her first time seeing the real thing. Ralph asks if she is serious. Fok confirms that, even though he isn't a swordsman, he has heard of it. Helen nods grimly. It is one of the famous swords of the country, the signature blade of the sword saint, the Sternenklang or Story Sword. The narration explains that it is a spring sword made of extremely thin, flexible special metal. It acts like a whip of razor-sharp steel. Our boy recognizes it instantly. In his previous life, this weapon wasn't called the Starry Sword. It was known as the Massacre Sword Bloodchain. Karina stands up, radiating a terrifying red aura of killing intent. She tells him she will show him exactly what she sacrificed to stand here. Our boy doesn't flinch. He simply says, "Yeah, I'll witness it all." Karina declares that this is her full power. She challenges him to withstand it if he can. She swings her blade, and the air explodes with red circles of mana. Ralph stares at the light show and asks what the hell that is. He questions if that even counts as swordsmanship anymore. Fokker maces, calling it a national magic level threat. Helen identifies the technique. It is the secret art, Circle Requiem. It is an ultimate technique that only the head of the Luther family can reach. It amplifies the spring sword's flexibility with magic power, driving the blade tip to supersonic speeds. Basically, she has turned her sword into a blender made of hate. Karina announces the dance of the circus. She claims that anyone who enters this domain, be it flame or lightning, will be cut down equally. She warns him that the field will expand to cover the entire arena. She graciously allows him to run away, but warns that if he stays, there won't even be bones left. Our boy yawns. He says there is no need to bother explaining it. He tells her he will come to her instead. He begins walking straight into the meat grinder. Internally, he admits it is fast, but it is not completely invisible. The narration explains his countermeasure, sense acceleration, Shika. It is a phenomenon where the brain's processing speed vastly accelerates under extreme stress. It is a natural defense mechanism humans possess to find the optimal path for survival, usually triggered only by chance. But our boy has mastered the ability to trigger this adrenaline overdose at will. He says, "Let's go," and steps into the kill zone. The students scream, but the ninth prince narrows his eyes. He realizes our boy is deflecting the attacks. He spots the trick. Van is parrying only the sword tip. Our boy's internal monologue confirms this. The center of gravity of a spring sword always remains at the blade's tip. He tells himself not to get confused by the complex trajectory. All he needs to do is strike the tip down. Karina smiles, but it is a strained smile. She calls him a monster. Our boy shakes his head. He says no. He just worked harder than most. Same as you. Karina freezes. She asks what he just said. Our boy drops some knowledge. The spring sword chooses its wielder. Anyone lacking true mastery would have their own body cut to ribbons by its erratic movements. Being born of a swordsman bloodline alone isn't enough to reach this domain. He asks her just how many years of hell she poured into that one blade. Karina is rattled. But her internal monologue reveals the tragic truth. Once, just once, her father told her how to use a sword. Maybe it was nothing more than a whim, but at that moment, she truly felt a bond between them. After that, it never happened again. Busy with state affairs, her father had no time to care for a bastard daughter like her. So, she decided to perfect her sword. She thought that if she became stronger than anyone else, surely her father and the family would acknowledge her. She endured day after day of hellish training. But she made a fatal mistake. She became too strong. From that day on, the scornful stares vanished, but they were replaced by something worse, constant hatred and fear. The warmth in her father's eyes was gone. He recognized her as the legitimate heir, but that was just damage control. To keep the family peace, to restrain the true-born children and console their mother, turning his back on Karina was the right political choice. That was when she realized that the only thing she had left was the sword. She decided that her existence would allow no denial. She would prove her worth with undeniable might. It was the only way to force her father and her house to look at her. Back in the present, she snaps. She shouts at our boy, asking what he could possibly know about this. She slashes him, cutting his cheek. But the crowd gasps. Our boy is advancing through the storm of slashes like he is taking a casual stroll in the rain. Karina starts to panic. She asks why he is going this far. Everyone else has always fled before her sword. She screams at him. Why? He is a man without magic. So why won't he back down? Karina screams that this is her full power, unleashing a storm of magic slashes. But our boy walks through it like he is commuting to work. He thinks about his mission. Yes, he wants to prevent the future rebellion, but it is not just about politics anymore. He looks at Karina and sees a reflection of his past self. Someone desperately hunting for power, only to be exploited by evil people and end up with nothing to show for it but scars. He knows that suffering better than anyone. He realizes there is someone crying alone at the center of this storm of blades. He asks himself, how could he just leave her there? He tells her she is crying. Karina snaps back, denying it instantly. But our boy corrects her. He says she might not be shedding tears, but her sword is screaming in her place. He translates the noise for her. Is this still not enough? Why won't you acknowledge me? That is what her blade is shouting. Karina grits her teeth, furious. She asks what a stranger could possibly know about her. She insists that this violence is all she has to become strong enough to make the entire House Luther bow down. Our boy takes a few superficial slashes to his body, ignoring the pain. He admits he doesn't know everything, but he looks her in the eye and drops some life advice. He tells her that her worth isn't decided by anyone else. The sweat and tears she shed, the weight of every swing she made as if carving away her own soul, no one can deny that value, even if no one acknowledges it. He declares that, to him at least, she is the finest magic swordsman he has ever seen. Karina freezes. Hearing this, a memory unlocks in her mind. She remembers her father's voice. He told her to listen well. He taught her that even when cutting down enemies, she must never swing her sword in anger or hatred. And noble, even in the midst of battle, must always carry pride in their heart. That is the true sword of House Luther. Our boy stops her rampage, not with force, but with words. We see Karina's eyes welling up. She thinks that that was what her father was trying to teach her back then. It wasn't about gaining someone else's acknowledgement. It was about having something to hold in her heart to remain herself. She realizes she had thrown that lesson away on her own. She discarded the one thing her father actually gave her. The red aura vanishes. She lowers her stance, leaving the hatred on the ground. She thanks Van Krieger. She tells him he helped her remember the sword she truly wanted to wield. She declares that this time, she will put everything into this one technique. She asks if he can receive it. Our boy smiles and prepares himself. He says, "Gladly." The crowd watches in silence. Karina executes a simple overhead slash. It lacks the flashy red magic circles, but it is a strike that has reached the pinnacle of refinement. It is the only technique her father ever taught her. Our boy catches the intention and the blade. He thinks, so this is the real you. The duel ends. Our boy stands over her, but instead of finishing her off, he extends a hand to help her up. He tells her, "Same to you." That was a magnificent sword, Karina. The students are in shock. They try to process the fact that a 5 crown was defeated by a first year, and a Galda at that. The silence stretches out, heavy and awkward. Then, a slow clap breaks the tension. It is Prince Heinz, the blonde trader who sold our boy out in his previous life. He starts clapping enthusiastically. The rest of the crowd, following the royal cue, begins to applaud as well. Our boy helps Karina to her feet while the villain cheers for them. The day after his legendary showdown, our boy is already back on his feet and looking like he didn't just spend a previous afternoon walking through a magical blender. He's hanging out with his 2 noble sidekicks, Ralph and Falk, who are currently hovering over him with the energy of golden retrievers who just found a tennis ball. He gives a casual flex to prove his injuries are history, explaining that the Academy healers worked their magic and left him without a single scratch. Fox is practically vibrating with excitement, insisting that yesterday's fight was a historic event that will be whispered about for generations, but our hero tries to play it cool. He claims it was just a simple duel, but his friends aren't having it. They point out that a first-year student flattening one of the 5 brilliant crowns is less of a duel and more of a glitch in the simulation. Their fanboying is cut short when Fox spots a familiar head of pink hair lurking under a tree nearby. It's the Thousand-Blade Sword Princess herself, and she's looking surprisingly healthy for someone who just got humbled in front of the entire student body. The sidekicks immediately go into a full-blown panic, wondering if she's already back for a round 2 revenge match, but our boy just offers a casual greeting like they're old gym buddies. She approaches with a face as serious as a tax audit, immediately scolding him for being late with his greetings and having a terrible attitude. When he jokingly asks if he's in for another punishment, she drops a bombshell. With a face that's currently doing its best impression of a ripe tomato, she points a finger and declares that she is making him her new squire. The confusion in the air is thick enough to cut with a sword. In this academy, the squire system is a fancy way for upperclassmen to adopt a junior, acting as their mentor and supervisor. In reality, she's basically announcing that she's going to be his shadow from here on out, so she can personally correct his behavior. Our boy realizes this is just a polite way of saying he's under 24-hour surveillance, and the thought makes him look like a Windows update that just got stuck at 99%. While he's internally screaming at the lack of privacy, his noble friends are actually whispering that this is a top-tier deal. They figure that as long as the Sword Princess is looking after him, nobody else in the school will dare to touch him. The princess tells him he should feel absolutely honored to be taken under her wing and demands he swear his loyalty right then and there. Our boy, who values his freedom more than a royal title, gives a very polite refusal and immediately activates his secret technique of running away at high speed. He shouts that he can't stand being monitored by anyone as he bolts for the horizon, leaving her completely stunned. She isn't about to let her new project escape that easily and starts sprinting after him, shouting that he can't just run away from her guidance. Watching the high-speed chase, his friends start to suspect that this isn't about training at all and that the princess might actually have a massive crush on the guy who just beat her. Meanwhile, the vibe is much darker over at the elite meeting of the 5 brilliant crowns. Prince Leonis is currently having a physical reaction to his own anger, fuming that a mere member of a slave race managed to defeat a noble. To him, this isn't just a loss, it's a disgrace that threatens the entire foundation of their society. He believes the hierarchy is built on magic power, and if a commoner without a drop of mana can win, then the royal family's right to rule starts to look like a house of cards. He slams his fist into the table, convinced that the Ice Flower Lady is trying to dismantle the nobility by letting our boy enroll in the first place. The purple-haired guy with the indoor sunglasses is busy wondering where a random kid learned to fight like a master assassin, but the red-headed elite, Amelia, isn't impressed. She sips her tea with the grace of someone who thinks everyone else is a peasant, arguing that our boy's techniques are no threat to real nobles. In her eyes, a true leader is a shield and a hammer designed to crush monster armies, while our boy is just a glorified street fighter who would be useless in a real war. She claims he's only suited to be an assassin and can never replace the pillars of the nation. To prove her point, she suggests using the upcoming Legion training to expose his limits. This is a practical combat exercise where students form units to hunt magical beasts, and she plans to draft him into her squad just to humiliate him on a grand scale. The plot thickens when the blonde traitor, Prince Hines, strolls into the room like he's posing for a motivational thumbtack. Despite this being an exclusive room for the top elites, he flashes a smile and asks if he and his friends can join Amelia's unit for the training. He claims he was deeply moved by her speech about noble conviction, acting like her words were a spiritual revelation. Amelia is totally charmed by the royal attention and agrees to the plan, promising to educate our boy under the prince's watchful eye. Hines just stands there with a grin that screams he has a PhD in betrayal, clearly plotting something that involves a lot of chaos. Back on the academy grounds, the high-speed game of tag finally comes to an end as the pink princess manages to catch up to her target. The scene shifts to a lovely little tea time with the ice flower lady, where our boy is busy munching on a biscuit with the dedication of a squirrel preparing for winter. His two noble sidekicks, Ralph and Fock, are getting the rundown on the upcoming Legion training. Fock explains that they won't just be students playing pretend, they'll be leading actual kingdom soldiers into combat. Our boy pauses his chewing just long enough to clarify that this is basically an internship for commanders, and Helen confirms it. She drops the details, saying the operation area is the Lament Wetlands, a magical wasteland that sounds exactly as cheerful as its name implies. The narration clarifies that these wastelands are infused with heavy magic power, similar to the forest from the entrance exam, but on a much nastier scale. Helen explains that beasts live there, and when their population gets too high, they migrate and cause stampedes that can flatten civilization. So, the nobility has the very important duty of going in there and culling the herd before things get apocalyptic. Our boy nods along, telling her to continue while he demolishes another snack. She explains the hierarchy. First years lead squads, while upperclassmen bundle those squads into companies. Ralph asks the question on everyone's mind. If they do well, will they get famous? Helen confirms that all the current 5 brilliant crowns made their names during their first-year Legion training. But there's a catch. The upperclassmen get to nominate who they want in their companies. Our boy immediately assumes he's going to be picked last, like the kid with a contagious rash in gym class. He figures a Galda like him will end up with the leftovers, but Helen corrects him. It turns out plenty of seniors actually want to recruit him. Our boy looks confused, so the sidekicks have to spell it out. He's the guy who humbled the sword princess and took down a demon. To the student body, he's a mystery wrapped in an enigma who destroys people without using a drop of magic. Our boy is speechless. In his previous life, he was treated like furniture. Now he's the popular kid. He realizes the world is changing bit by bit, though he senses not everyone is happy about his sudden rise to stardom. His instincts scream at him, and he glances into the distance, locking eyes with the angry Prince Leannis who is watching from a balcony. The prince is shook that our boy sensed his presence without any magic detection, but he just grits his teeth and mutters for them to enjoy their little friendship games while they can. Back at the table, Helen offers a solution to the drafting anxiety. She plans to use her priority as a crown to draft Van, Ralph, and Fock into her own unit. The sidekicks are thrilled to be on the winning team, but the celebration is cut short by a familiar voice. The sword princess arrives, looking like she's ready to file a custody claim. She announces that supervising Van is her responsibility since he is her squire, so naturally, he'll be under her command. Our boy immediately shouts that he already refused that offer, but nobody is listening. Helen laughs, saying that sounds interesting too, completely ignoring our boy's desperate attempts to advocate for his own freedom. Several days later, the squad gathers around the bulletin board to see their official assignments. The crowd is huge, and Fock notes that being nominated by a prestigious upperclassman is a massive honor. They scan the list for Helen's unit, assuming they are all safe and sound. But our boy stops. His name isn't there. He checks the sword princess's unit. Not there either. With a sinking feeling, he points a finger toward the 5th company. Ralph and Fox turn pale. They ask if this is some kind of sick joke because the commander of the 5th company is none other than Amelia Rosen, the red-headed elite who thinks commoners should be used as pavement. But it gets worse. Fox points to the name right next to Vance. It's Prince Hines. Our boy stares at the boar, realizing he has been drafted into a nightmare blunt rotation with the traitor from his past life and the woman who wants to destroy his future. Right on cue, the blonde traitor strolls up with Amelia, smiling like a shark that just spotted a wounded seal. He says what a lovely coincidence this is, while our boy turns to look at him with a face that suggests he just swallowed a lemon whole. Prince Hines and the red-headed elite approach our boy with the energy of a corporate HR department about to deliver bad news. The blonde traitor flashes a smile that is far too bright for someone who already committed murder once, acting as if the entrance exam was just a fun bonding experience. He extends a hand for a shake, suggesting they work together and do their best, but our boy responds with the conversational energy of a brick wall. He stares at the hand like it's a suspicious piece of trash and gives a short, dry confirmation without actually touching him. The red-headed commander, Amelia Rodenwald, steps in to introduce herself as one of the 5 brilliant crowns. Our boy offers a polite bow and an apology for being late to the party, which Amelia dismisses with a wave. She claims she isn't a fan of stiff formalities, but she immediately follows that up by telling him to remember his place as a lowly Galda. In her mind, his only job is to stay out of the way and follow her instructions like a good little scout. Before the vibe can get any more toxic, Helen, the recruiter who basically hand-delivered our boy to this academy, steps in to ask if Amelia is being a bit too aggressive. Amelia doesn't back down, arguing that her elitism is actually a form of kindness. She genuinely believes that people without magic are just walking death traps who endanger the entire unit, so she's generously assigning him to sentry duty. Our boy realizes Amelia is the most annoying type of person to deal with because her eyes hold zero malice. She isn't being mean for fun. She truly, deeply believes she's right. Our boy tells her that fulfilling a role is important, and that's exactly why he bothered to show up at this academy in the first place. He thinks back to Helen's advice about how magic isn't the only way to reach the top, and he tells Amelia to use those elitist eyes of hers to watch him prove he isn't just dead weight. Amelia just turns her back on him and leaves, with the blonde traitor trailing behind her like a loyal puppy. Hind pauses just long enough to give our boy a fake nice don't worry speech, promising his abilities will surely be useful later in a tone that suggests he's already planning the funeral. As they depart, the pink-haired princess and Helen watch from the sidelines. The princess suspects the prince is up to his usual schemes, and Helen realizes the blonde traitor must have pulled some major strings with the faculty to mess with these assignments. While they worry about the politics, our boy is busy having a flashback to his previous life. He remembers that the upcoming mission to the Lament Wetlands was a total disaster, a historical delete-all event where a new species of monster wiped out nearly everyone and eventually led to a civil war. Ralph and Fock come over to check on his mental health, but our boy is too busy calculating survival rates. He realizes his original plan to hide behind the heavy hitters is officially ruined. If that new monster shows up, his golden retriever sidekicks won't make it out without a scratch. He's currently stuck in a unit where he's being treated like the help, and the actual danger is about to hit levels no one is prepared for. When the time comes to move out, Amelia gives a grand, heroic speech about noble pride and soldierly resolve that gets the army shouting with excitement. However, the soldiers actually assigned to our boy's squad are having a collective meltdown. They aren't even bothering to whisper their complaints, openly mocking the fact that they have to serve under an unarmed Galdo with no magic. They're basically treating him like an expandable pawn before the fight even starts. Our boy listens to them talk trash and decides he's had enough of the commentary. He steps up and informs them that he is their leader now, and from this moment forward, the talking phase is over. He tells them to shut up and focus on the mission like they actually belong in the kingdom's army. As the soldiers go silent and try to look smug, Amelia watches the low morale mess from a distance. To her, the fact that our boy was stuck with the bottom of the barrel rejects who have zero hope for advancement is just proof that he's already hit his ceiling as a commander. Amelia wastes no time and orders the march to begin with a shout that gets the entire army roaring in agreement, except for our boy's squad. His team remains dead silent, radiating the collective enthusiasm of people headed to attack Audit. As they trek through the forest, the red-headed commander finally calls for a short break, and the blonde traitor immediately launches into his perfect prince routine. Heinz goes around telling everyone to stay hydrated and keep their eyes peeled, acting like the world's most polished camp counselor. While other team leaders are busy checking equipment and checking in on their soldiers' mental health, our boy's unit is sitting in a puddle of their own misery. The soldiers in his team are busy roasting him behind his back, complaining that he's making them walk while he enjoys the view from the back of a horse. One of them finally snaps and asks if the captain has anything to say for himself. Our boy calmly notes that since they clearly have a lot on their chests, he's willing to listen just this once. The soldiers start screaming about their gear being trash, and the fact that their leader is a magicless Galda. He's convinced the academy is just using them as meat shields for the nobles, and he's currently having a private crisis about his survival prospects. Our boy hops off his horse and tells them that while he understands their anxiety, they are deeply mistaken about how this is going to go. He realizes that words are wasted on them, so he decides to give them a live demonstration. He invites the entire squad to come at him all at once, which naturally confuses the hell out of them. One frustrated soldier decides he's had enough and tries to turn our boy into a human shish kebab, but our boy just catches the blade with his bare hands as if he's catching a falling leaf. While the soldier is still processing the fact that his captain's hands are apparently made of reinforced steel, our boy borrows the sword and shoves the man to the ground. He asks the rest of the squad if they're going to join the party, but they're all too busy having their souls leave their bodies for a permanent vacation. To drive the point home, he takes the worn-out sword and turns a nearby tree into firewood with one single, effortless slash. The soldiers, and even people from the other teams, are suddenly looking at him with the kind of admiration usually reserved for rock stars. He hands the sword back, admitting it's a bit old but still gets the job done. He explains that he chose his current fighting style after mastering every weapon in the book and promises he won't let them die for nothing, unless they're stupid enough to go become monster food on their own. Up on a nearby hill, the red-headed commander is watching this entire display with a look of pure judgment. Amelia thinks he's an amateur for leading through fear and intimidation, convinced that a unit built on chains will just betray him the second things get messy. In her mind, our boy has already failed as a leader. That night, the unit continues their march and sets up camp right at the edge of the Swamp of Lament, while Amelia and Helen are busy squinting at maps and the prince is catching up on some light reading. Our boy squad is huddled around a fire. They're busy wondering if their captain has finally realized he's in over his head and run off into the night. They start joking about how they're all just disposable outcasts and that a Galda leader is actually a perfect fit for a group of rejects. Suddenly, our boy appears out of the shadows like a ghost, asking for more details about this outcast status. He catches the soldiers mid-gossip and sits down at the fire, but he hasn't come empty-handed. He drops a haul of fresh rabbits and mushrooms he caught in the woods, leaving the squad staring at the fresh feast with eyeballs practically sweating in shock. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this recap, drop a like and let me know your favorite moment in the comments. I'll see you in the next video for more madness. Peace.